Beautiful. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of September 28th, 2016. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to get right in. We have a lot of things to go through, but as on my way here, I looked to my left out into Bristol Harbor and saw a pirate ship. I don't believe it really actually was, but it was a three-masted ship. If you get a moment, go past the Harrishoff Marine Museum. It is an absolutely spectacular ship, and I know Halsey will add some color at the end of the meeting on this one.
I will add something to that eventually.
Absolutely wonderful. Mr. Clerk.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, the first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull forward to the front of the meeting I-1, I-1A, and I-1B.
I-1, I-1A, and I-1B. And that's out of our standard agenda?
Yes, I would like to have it start the meeting. I have...
Okay. So let's we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then I heard a motion to pull forward I-1, A and B.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So I-1 is our first agenda item. We're going to give the clerk just a moment to...
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, this is something put on the agenda, the request of Councilman Stewart regarding the Rhode Island Energy Challenge. You have some correspondence from the Community Development Director regarding the same, and a draft resolution that would be prepared if the Council so choose to support it.
So, Mr. Chairman, tonight with us we have Melinda Howard. She's the Senior Community Director for Smart Power for Tanyard 4 Bristol Energy Saving Initiative. Here as a Town Council in the Town of Bristol, we have made many initiatives and strides, whether it be LED lighting, our request for proposal for solar caps in all our municipal buildings, our street lights, and we're very proactive as a town to be part of energy savings with Solarize Bristol just recently this past year. Smart Power is a partner in conjunction with National Grid. They have been in Rhode Island with other municipalities that have taken advantage of their resources and tools to help residences, businesses, and municipalities make energy cost and savings and initiatives through meetings and community outreach. So I would just like to have Melinda Howard and, of course, the hard work of our Community Development Director, Diane Williamson, just to give a brief background on this. Melinda?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for having me here. I am Melinda Howard. I'm the Senior Community Outreach Manager for Smart Power, which is a national nonprofit marketing firm in the area of green energy and energy efficiency. We are working in Rhode Island with National Grid on an energy efficiency campaign, which we're asking the council to pass a resolution and partner with us, where we will come in, educate your residents on how they can save on energy, and by meeting a threshold of 476 sign-ups, the town will then get a $5,000 grant from National Grid for energy upgrades to a public space. It's a very well-received program. We won a award from the EPA this year, the Clean Air Excellence Award on this program. I believe you're the 12th municipality we've worked with. And I would be happy to entertain any questions you have.
Just that I signed up this morning, and so 475 now.
Beautiful.
Going down in the right direction. So when I went to the website and signed up, it looks like it's basically just tips. You know, it said LED, switch to LED lighting, thermometer, savings, and then is it just tips, or is it actually, you said there was somebody going to come out and educate you?
There are two parts. You can sign up for a RISE energy assessment through the Energy Challenge. It is one of the actions you can take. We're asking you to take 4 actions in your home, and we provide you with a list, and you can find those tips, but we're asking you to take the 4 actions to reduce your energy use at home, at work, at school. By signing up, you will also get tips from us about 10 to 14 times a year with energy-saving ideas. They are seasonal, so it's things that you don't think about all the time.
Yeah.
Is this open to businesses and factories as well?
You can absolutely take advantage of the energy-saving initiatives in businesses. We want to work with businesses.
And what is going to be the criteria for determining whether or not the 5% is achieved?
It'll be through sign-ups, either on our website or through these little cards that I have here. People sign them up, and then they come back to me to be.
So in other words, it's just the number of households rather than the actual power?
It's the number of sign-ups, and it's based on 5% of the residents, the households in your municipality.
Well, it seems an entirely constructive effort, and I would think our members here and our viewers would want to take advantage of it, and I hope they do.
Thank you very much. Anything else for me?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to support this energy challenge resolution.
Second?
Seconded?
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'll just add that we'll make sure that it's very easy for our residents to access this. If you're not sure how to do that, just give a call to Town Hall and ask for Diane. And you're welcome, Diane. No. If you go on our website, you'll be able to see it. As Tim mentioned, there's 475, maybe less than that right now. There's about 9,600 properties in Bristol. So this is very, very doable. It's very, very beneficial, and the $5,000 goes to offset things that the town is already taking steps to save the taxpayers' money. So we have a motion and a second to support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank
And I
you.
assume this vote is also including the resolution that's been drawn up.
So my motion was
Yes.
to support the resolution.
Very good.
Mr. Clerk.
The next item, or rather going back to the beginning of the agenda, the next item up is the submission of minutes of previous meetings of September 7th. There were 2 meetings on that day, A1 and A2.
Motion to support, approve the submitted minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is an advertised public hearing. You have the petition of Jerome F. Williams for Roger Williams University on behalf of the State of Rhode Island, Maha Center, 2 Metacom Avenue, real estate known as Plat 163, Lot 42. This is the application for zoning map and comprehensive plan future use map change from R40 residential to educational institutional. This is the public hearing. You also have provided from the university the Maha Center zone change comprehensive plan amendment, and from the community development director the additional information. You have a recommendation provided by the planning board, and in the council seat you have a letter provided by a citizen who is asking that that letter be read into the record.
Mr. Chairman, I will again recuse myself because of the fact that I'm an owner of property adjacent to that in question.
Thank you. So this, as the clerk said, is a public hearing, so we're going to open that up. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? I'd be surprised if you weren't speaking in favor, sir.
It's like in an auction. Third one, get up. Good evening. My name is Pete Wilbur, and I'm the Vice President for University Outreach and Engagement at Roger Williams University. And as you know, we're here for the second reading of our project involving the 2-acre parcel located at the very northern end of our campus, currently zoned R40. It was previously used as an adult daycare center, and it is currently unoccupied. It was known to most folks by the Maha Center, as the Maha Center, and the university wishes to acquire this property and building for educational purposes, office, storage, and classrooms. As a result of that, we're requesting the parcel to be rezoned to EI, Educational Institution, in order to conform and establish contiguous and correlating land use for the entire campus as a whole. This likewise, as was noted earlier, requires a comprehensive plan amendment, which has been submitted in tandem with our application, which will serve to update the town's comprehensive plan. I also would like to note, and I know it's in the booklet, but for the sake of the public hearing, that we're also currently in active discussions with U.S. Sailing as a partial tenant. They are the national governing body for competitive sailing in the United States, and they oversee the U.S. Olympic sailing team. So we also see this as an opportunity for a strategic partnership benefiting both the university and the town of Bristol. First of all, reinforcing the notion and supporting history of Bristol as the center of sailing and creator of premier sailcraft design and fabrication, not to mention the marine industry located in Bristol. There's also an opportunity for the university as a draw for potential students with an interest in sailing, as well as our nationally ranked sailing team. Lastly, there's also the potential opportunity to hold high-profile sailing events similar to the Junior National Championship Regatta that was held here, I believe it was in Bristol on our campus during the summer of 2015. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Before we close the public hearing, Mr. Clerk, we did have this letter here. It's lengthy, so if you'll bear with me, this is the first time I'm seeing it. So, to the Honorable Town Council, I'm writing you in regards to the Roger Williams University Master Plan that is to be discussed at the public hearing on September 28th. We have lived on Ambrose Drive for 11 years, and we were aware of what living close to or close by the university was when we purchased our home. A few years after we moved in, a dorm was built, part of the master plan. This dorm is situated directly across from our home across the way on Metacom Ave. The shape of the building seems to amplify the sound across our neighborhood. After attending the planning board meeting last week, we learned that more buildings will be constructed to bring the students who live off campus. I would like to explain to you what living across campus is like. At night, we have to turn our air conditioners on or sound machine to drown out the noise that comes from the campus, whether it's loud music played from their vehicles or late-night volleyball games that go on until 2 or 3 a.m., or bonfire smell and occasional fireworks that go off even in the winter months. This noise travels across our neighborhood and surrounding area. So on a night when you would like to have the windows open and get fresh air and come in, have fresh air come in, and of course try to sleep or be able to get up for work, that's just not possible on many nights. The cars race around Metacom Ave and loop around Ferry Road as if they were on a racetrack very late at night. You can almost expect to hear a crash at the speed they travel. We cannot fully say that this is the fault of the students, but we have seen racing out of the driveway of the university and then the loud speeding right after it very late at night. Water pressure is not what it used to be when we moved in and before the increase in campus population. We feel that once more dorms are built, that the problem will only increase. The worst experience is how the neighbors and the surrounding neighbors have to deal with the loud music and the concerts held at the campus at the beginning of the school year and with graduation festivities at the end of the year is really more than the neighbors who pay taxes can put up with any longer. If you would like to sit in your yard and read a book and just in peace, after working all week, you may well have to forget that. A friend of ours who lives on Woodlawn Ave has mentioned to us several times that she hears the music as well. In August, when the school was not in session, we had to listen to loud music all day. I've made videos of these events taken from our front yard, and if you'd like to listen to them, I'm happy to show you. I played them at the planning board meeting last week, so they're aware of this as well. We welcome you to come to our neighborhood on a night before graduation when the graduating students march along Ferry Road at night and gather at the entrance of the campus. If you have to sleep to get up to work the following day, it's going to be a problem as well. The sound from the area could be compared to a riot. When any of us have called to complain, we are told that is a tradition. There are noise problems at Blythewald Mansion in the past with the neighbors complaining, and the situation was remedied. We have called the police, and they have responded, but we were told that all permits were in place. We do not like to bother the police over and over, as we feel they have much more important matters to deal with. They are wonderful and sympathetic and responded each time we called, but how much more can they do? The police, fire, rescue, water, sewer, and overtaxed are overtaxed as it is, and it makes us wonder how the town will allow more buildings to be allowed to be constructed. We heard from attending the planning board meeting last week that the plan is for 4 more buildings to consolidate housing and bring off-campus students to the campus. Bristol is a small town, and this will only add to the traffic problems and tax our town services. I apologize for not reading this as smooth as it probably deserves. We asked at the planning board meeting for a buffer zone if they are going to be allowed to continue building in the coming years. Not just a tree line, but the need to meet with a company that specializes in buffering noise like they would do to buffer noise coming from an airport. As taxpayers, we deserve this at least, which we note was promised when the first dorm was built, and that promise was not kept. After a while, people that live nearby just give up, realizing that you can't go against the giant, and that's in quotes. It almost seems like a hopeless situation for those who live here. There is much more that could be said, but I think you get the picture. You can tell all of us all day long what an asset the university is for the town, but it's not the case for the surrounding neighbors. In closing, we feel the town needs to set limits for the university to follow at this point in time so we can all coexist in peace. Respectfully, Gene Mata, 10 Ambrose Drive. Your mic's not on.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Please.
If we're, to Peter, I wanted to, I don't know if this is appropriate time for questions, but this is the point that I wanted to ask. I read this when I got here, and actually, Gene had stopped me one day at church, not about this, but about the concert, the beginning of the school year concert, and the noise that comes from that. And I had spoken to Tony about that, and I believe he spoke to you about it, I'm not sure. But I think the issue she raises, I do believe, and it's a little, I'm going to get to the point of what's exactly on the agenda in a second, but I do believe that the buffer and the sound mitigation needs to be addressed, because I do believe that all of this is probably a very serious issue for people who live near there. I can tell from just downtown what goes on just on the bar nights on Thursday nights. So I think we need to look at that. And I think we need to look at, part of this is, when you have this whole institutional zone was, I believe, put in place initially so that the university didn't have to come to the council or the boards every single time they wanted to build something. But then there is no controls in that respect for the neighbors or whatever. So I guess my question specifically to this, as I read through everything on the Maha Center, I thought, well, it's landlocked and it makes perfect sense the way it's sort of encompassed within the university's property. That didn't really seem to be a problem. Is there an intention to build dorms on that 2-acre parcel?
Pete, before you respond to that, and I do want you to respond, it's still the public hearing, and I want
sorry.
to... No, it's okay. It's absolutely... So please respond to that just in a moment, but
Sure.
Is there anyone else to speak against? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, don't close it yet, because if someone from the audience is responding, if you close it, he's not going to be able to, so.
Fair enough. Thank you for that advice.
So not moved.
Scratch
So
that.
not moved. So not moved. Pete, please.
No, the plan is absolutely not to build dorms on that property. It's strictly for offices, classrooms, and storage on the Maha Center property. Yes.
Can you just say that a little louder? No plans for dorms?
No plans for dorms. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I gather from the zoning board meeting, from what is written in this letter, that at the zoning board hearing, there are plans to build 4 more dorms. What does that time frame look like?
Well, it was the planning board hearing, I guess it was last couple of weeks ago, and this was part of a 5-year master plan update, which is totally similar to but different than us coming in, which we have to do. Even if the master plan update were approved, we'd have to come in with a separate booklet, go through the same process all over again for any of the projects on the 5-year update. The plan is for three additional dormitories, phased out 3 different over time. The first one is phase 1 down next to Bayside, if you're familiar with that. Those are quite a distance away from Metacom, heading down the hill. That would be 40 beds. The other 2 phases, Derek, could you help me out here?
Derek Maloney, Roger Williams University.
Closer to the mic.
We
It's really tough to
can't hear you, for some reason.
Thank you.
Derek Maloney, Roger Williams University, Office of Capital Projects. The dormitory project that appeared last week,
It says last week.
the last
Last week.
meeting of the zoning planning board, was related to what Pete mentioned as the Baysides, which are the 2-story dormitories that are furthest away from Metacom as you come in the north entrance. They're below the athletic fields. And the new project proposes 3 buildings to be built in successive years or thereabouts, to add a series of 156 beds total in a series of 40, 40, and then the remainder in another building.
So can you just tell me exactly which one is Bayside? Is that going down the hill, where the original dorms are? Some of the original?
No. When you come in the north entrance, and you could go down that road where the lacrosse and soccer field is.
Yeah.
There's 2-story buildings that look like New England seaside architecture. They have hip roofs and they're gray and blue. That's where the location is. If you come in the front, that drive, the north entrance drive, the buildings will be right there in the corner of that parking lot.
So they are on Metacom?
No, they're not on Metacom.
On Ferry?
No, they're not on Ferry. They're well within the campus. They're not on
Down
public
below,
street.
like there's parking, if you go way down?
If you go down about 300 yards or so. They're at the intersection of an internal road to campus,
Right,
where
right,
you would
right,
turn
right.
left
Yeah.
to go to the Marhar Center, or turn right to go around the athletic fields.
So
Close to
it's
the
more
water.
south to the Maha Center, the Bayside dormitories?
Yes, it is, that's right.
So in essence, it would be further away than the Maha Center?
It's more to the east, more to the water side?
Yes, it's on the water side, yep.
So, is there a way to, and we can put this on a separate agenda, to address the noise complaint issue in the buffer in this particular area? Because I believe this is a problem. And it seems like, as the person pointed out, when there was an issue with Blythewald noise, the neighbors complained and the situation was remedied. Now, as you know, we haven't had a big outcry from the neighbors. They haven't been here. But if this is the feeling and something could be done along that Metacom stretch, I think it would be beneficial.
Yes. First of all, we've got some activity in play. We had a meeting today of a committee at the university consisting of the Vice President of Student Affairs, myself, Capital Projects, and I've already spoken to the President about this, and we will be sending out invitations for an October 12th University of Butters community meeting, so that we can address specifically the points of concern that were raised at the planning board, and also field any other concerns that they may have, at a setting. It's going to be held at the university in the Alumni
And how
Admission
will you
Center.
be defining a butter? Are you going to go within like a certain radius? Are you going to pick
We'll
all
go
the
with
streets?
the abutters list that we submit for the master plan update.
Does that hit Ambrose Drive? Does it hit down
Oh,
to
yes.
Ferry Road and all of
Yeah,
that?
there's like 300 or 400 residents.
Okay. And what time is that going to be on October 12th?
It's going to be at 6:30. And also, I wanted to tell you that Phase 1, as I said, is right next to Bayside, which is it starts at the Sailing Center and heads north. That's how far down the hill it is. So Phase 1 at 40 beds is right next to Bayside, and Phase 2 is also next to Bayside. The one that probably would be in most contention is Phase 3, which would be up near Medicom.
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that be more, where would that one be?
The three phases are, we're referring to the project as Bayside 4, so it's all in the same area as the existing Bayside. Sorry, Pete, what Pete is referring to is, we've had a long discussion today about project planning, and we're also proposing in our master plan amendment is additional parking, which is an extension of the North Campus parking lot, which I think we all know is along Medicom.
To the point of the parcel that is in question, in the 40,000 square foot of the Maha Center, from what I'm reading, it doesn't preclude you of any future construction for any regulations or zoning, which you would have to come in front of the town of Bristol, Michael, where they might have stipulations going forward within those confines that might be concerns.
When they come in with their master plan, absolutely. They can't construct anything without going through the process. It's not, just because it becomes an educational, institutional zone, doesn't mean they can just throw anything up.
Absolutely.
There's a process.
So I just wanted everyone to understand that.
Yes.
And it's an open process, and neighbors, and they have to notify people.
So within the next 5-year plan, and hopefully longer, there's no plans for housing on the Maha Center property?
No, absolutely not. And I stand corrected, Derek is correct, all three phases are down the hill at the Bayside area. There are no dorms up along Medicom. That was my error, sorry.
So closer to Monhope Bay, if you will.
Absolutely, yes.
Chief Canary, I was just wondering if you could comment on the residents' letter here in regards to the widespread noise.
I think the woman that wrote the letter was right on target.
Okay.
It's an ongoing issue. It continues to grow. I know the university is doing the best they can, but let's look at it. You can only put so much air in a balloon before it pops. This is what's happening. We talk about this every day, the traffic in this community. There's only 3 ways in and out of it. That is on the south end of town. They have to travel all the way through town if they go into Providence, unless they go over the bridge. I think we need to look at that, the traffic impact, along with everything else that comes into play here. And we're talking 3 buildings, 156 beds. Do the math with vehicles. And the only thing I would ask is that I be informed of the meeting, and if anyone needs some data with regards to accidents in that area, noise complaints, any other issues that we can give you information on, I'd be more than glad to provide it to whoever may need it.
Well, what about some of these other issues besides the dorm issue and the traffic? What about the noise issues and other that they've raised in the letter?
As I said, we respond to each and every one of them, and we deal with them to the best of our ability. They do have public safety there. They're helpful when they can control it themselves, but as you know, they're not a police agency, so it really ends with us at the end. I know Mr. Wilbur has got his finger on that pulse, no doubt. If it was up to him, I think we'd be able to move a little quicker, but at times we've faced some hurdles, as we all know.
And what is the I know we're not here for the dorms, but what is the dorm timeline? Like, when are you projecting to do the first phase?
First phase, we're projecting to spring of next year. And all 3 of these phases are designed to bring more students on campus from in town. For instance, our Alameda complex, that's why the first 40 beds is so important to us, because there are some areas in that complex that are just really need redoing completely.
Now, will you be giving up the Alameda complex?
Ultimately, that's the direction we want to go in, but we have to do it over time. We just can't,
Now, what is your policy for a student in cars? I mean, freshmen have cars. Can anybody
No.
have cars? Is it upperclassmen only?
No freshman cars at all. Just sophomore, junior, senior.
Peter, I'm in support of the zone change for Roger Williams, but you have to kind of promise us, we have to find a fine balance between the residents and Roger Williams, which I think you guys are great for the town. Don't get me wrong, and I think the National Sailing team being here in town is going to be a great economic advantage for the town as well. So, but we need to be assured that you guys are going to take these concerns really seriously.
Absolutely. I agree.
So the other two issues, because there were very valid points, and I just want to address Ms. Mata's concerns, the traffic and the noise, how redundant would the noise complaints be other than the events? Because being a realist with a university, whether it be homecoming, graduation, this has been going on for decades, and aside of that, those events, which we have events throughout town, and wherever you live, every now and then you're going to be abrupted with some type of noise. How often is that happening?
Well, as you can imagine, and we do, we have a lot of events. We're probably one of the busiest towns in the state, from what I gather, but none to that magnitude. I mean, that you're talking about some serious amount of people, whether it's graduation or, whether it's, the concerts, whatever. I mean, these are large venues. And as I tell you all the time, it taxis the police department. We have a 40-man police department. Right. As you can see, I have 7 or 8 officers assigned on Medicom Avenue just to keep the flow of traffic through Medicom, so we can get ambulance rescues, we can get deliveries made to Roger Williams, because they're going that way to Roger Williams, or they're going over the bridge, and we don't want those large trucks downtown, as we know, it creates a problem down there. One main artery is all we can use most of the time. There's quite a bit of vehicles in here. I invite you, just take a position at any intersection, look at the plates, tell me where they're from. If they're from Rhode Island, Mass., then we know they're in the area. Anything further than that, they're not from the area.
And last, just one final point of, we are very cognizant of the tax and burden of when you talk about any expansion in the town, such as they had mentioned water or even sewer for any infrastructure purpose on behalf of the town going forward, especially in that area. It just so happens we have some BCWA directors here with us tonight. I believe that water main that was down on Ferry Road to the water tank was put there for that main reason of that area, for that water pressure. Is that correct?
Yes. Water pressure and fire pressure.
Okay.
That should take us into the future. The main is big enough to handle any current flows.
I wonder why they're not seeing a difference then. If they saw the pressure drop and then they haven't seen it go back up since that was installed, I wonder about that. And the other one is, and I know it's tradition, et cetera, in quotes, tradition, but the fact that they gather along Ferry Road at midnight, the night of graduation, they gather at the entrance of the campus. I mean, is there something like, that's something that could be changed. I mean, tradition could keep on that they could have an event at midnight, but they could start at the other end of the campus. You know what I mean?
What it is? The tradition is that they walk into the fountain area, in the main entrance. That's why they're there. But
do they gather there, or they just walk there?
Well, I mean, walk through it and then walk away. As far as I'm concerned, and I think it needs to be better supervised if it's bothering the adjacent neighborhood.
They could all gather on the other side on the campus, walk up to it and walk back, or they can gather on Ferry Road, and that's a lot more noise if they're gathering there and there's a half an hour before everybody gets there and they do something.
Exactly.
Those are the kinds of things that you could look at and see without.
This is what we hope to get into an engaging conversation with the folks that come on October 12th at 6:30, so that we can take notes and construct a plan, an action plan that will get them feeling comfortable and in support of what's going on.
And did the neighbors contact you directly, Peter? They all know that they could contact you with these issues, or do they not contact you? I mean, I just don't know.
Contact me. We also, on October 12th, we have a public safety hotline that we will be pushing out.
So. What building is that going to be in?
The Alumni Admissions Building. It's the very first building on your right as you pass the guard shack in the front. It's not really a shack, but it used to be.
It's growing along with the campus, I guess you'd say, right?
Right.
Is there anything else? No? I live very close to the university. I'm very aware of everything that was mentioned here in this letter. I'm not as close as this resident, but I heard everything they were talking about. I haven't experienced water pressure issues, but everything else. So I think we all express some concerns here. You sound open and willing to deal with those concerns directly.
As we are too.
as this sits in front of us tonight, the question is that we have a second reading to say yes or no to changing this zone, that Maha Center, to be part of the university education zone. So, but I know I will, and I'm sure some other of my colleagues will be, maybe all of us, will be at the October 12th meeting, because we're concerned that, this marching is something that should probably stop right away. There's someplace else to do it, and you're in control, and others are in control to make sure it stops. So I know for myself, I think it's a great tradition that they should be able to do something like that. It doesn't have to happen there. So, and there's probably a lot of other things going on that could be improved with little impact to the university and a lot of impact to the neighbors, to the positive. So.
It's important to have things that everyone enjoys.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to close the public hearing because I see one more person up there. So this is there anyone else to speak against? Welcome.
Hi. Sean Williams, 100 Griswold Avenue. And I, too, hear everything that was in that letter. But I don't think we've ever lodged a complaint because we're used to being the neighbors. Roger Williams is obviously an asset to the town, but they make a little more noise than the cows that used to be there when I was growing up. Having said that, I wonder, now that the Maher Center is no longer a separate piece of property and it has become part of the Roger Williams campus, will there be some sort of security gate added at that second entrance, that northerly entrance? At the moment, as an abutter, we experience a large number of trespassers who litter a lot more than the cows did when they used to escape and land in our yard. But it's something that has gotten worse over time. Bristol is fortunate to have many public spaces to fish, to enjoy the water, but that's not one of them. And we've experienced on a regular basis people setting fires at the shore. I spent 40 man-hours last winter with my daughter and neighbors' children removing trash from the beach, because that's one of those spots that nobody can get to and that's very inaccessible, and we like it that way. And we find that it becomes an attractive nuisance with the number of stone jetties and things. I'm not saying that students, that although they do come and explore from time to time, but I suspect a number of members of the public come and park because nobody's guarding that gate, that entrance, that street, because it was more public before it became 100% Roger Williams property. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. The only other thing is about the noise is because the prevailing wind direction is southwest, so we're all being washed with the sound that comes along with the wind. So if the wind's coming from the other direction, we hear Mount Hope Farm. if something's going on there. But it's been noticed for a very long time, no matter how many trees you plant, and it is fortunately not an everyday occurrence. But perhaps something better could be done.
Mm-hmm. Could you address that question about the gate at that particular entrance?
Yeah, what is the plan for that roadway going forward?
Are we talking about the North Campus entrance?
Yes.
Yeah. The Maher entrance, yeah, and the North Campus,
right,
yeah.
Right, they only had one way in, and all the utilities went down there as well. We don't have plans for a gate, per se, but I would like to offer up, as you probably recall, we adopted some land down near the shoreline by the Mount Hope Bridge where the fishermen go, and God knows who else, but it's really gets littered, the shoreline. So we've adopted that area, and we clean that up on a regular basis. We would be more than happy, our students would love to adopt, not legally adopt it because it's probably private property, but if she's willing, we'd love to go down and clean the place up on a regular basis, or when on an on-call basis if she thinks that would be better.
Everything below high tide is fair game for anybody to pick up. But what is not fair game is anything above high tide. And I'm talking about trespassers who come regularly and leave a lot of stuff, including cooking equipment, so they can come back next week, and so on and so forth. This goes on all the time. You would not believe what we pulled out of there. And the fact that people set fires. A summer like this, it's a huge concern.
Yeah.
Huge concern, and there's no control. The police have been very helpful this year. When the hay was down, I was able to take some of your officers all the way down as far as I could on our property to shoo people out, because you shoo them out close to where our house is and they just go to another place. It's barely halfway back to where they came from. So it's been an issue. It's always been an issue, but it's more of an issue if nobody is governing and controlling that entrance, especially on the weekends.
So in your opinion, a gate would be helpful?
Or just a single entrance. I would think for security purposes of the campus, you know what goes on these days.
Right.
It's a free-for-all. Anybody could go in there. So, you have this entrance that's guarded, which is just kind of nominal if you've got this back door that's wide open.
Right, that's true.
As a parent of a student, I wouldn't like that. Right. I can see why it had to be done because the Maher Center was there, and there were other people getting in and out of there for good reason. They had every right to. But now I would suggest that it's more of a private security issue, and there is a security issue. I mean, could be somebody lights a fire on the Roger Williams campus, because that's what they do. That is what happens, and I'm sure you're aware of it.
That's a scary.
Chief, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I think she's being very kind on some of the statements she's making. I think that's something, if Mr. Wilbur is willing to have the Director of Public Safety give me a call the next day or so, and he and I, and maybe the captain, will go down. We'll make a recommendation. I know Mr. Wilbur is always amenable to our recommendation, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know how it'll be handled once it gets to the next level. That's all we can do. And again, our goal is to keep our residents safe and to accommodate them in any way and to continue to have them live in the community that they've been accustomed to. And we want the college students to come here and enjoy themselves. We just don't want them creating problems for such as Mrs. Williams or anyone else in this community.
Pete, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I agree with what the chief is saying, absolutely, and I will have a Director of Public Safety contact you. Derek, did you want to say something about North Campus?
I do want to wrap this up, too. I know we've been going for a little bit on this, so...
It does sound like an issue, though. As a point, it was well taken, I think. If this is going to become now, if there's a separate entrance down to a state building, and now it's going to become your building, then you'd want to protect your assets and not have the campus, like a back door, as it was pointed out, onto the campus. I mean, you have pretty good security to get onto the campus now.
Yeah. If I could just address that, Diane and I have been talking on a regular basis about the various submissions that we're making.
Can you raise the mic just a little?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Got a bad mic. We are conducting a traffic study now, you might have noticed, out on Metacom and internal to our campus that mimics the traffic study that we performed in 2010. And when we have that raw traffic data, just raw vehicle counts, we will be able to compare it to the data that was collected in 2010, and then we're prepared to come, when we come to the planning board meeting next month, to discuss the results of that and other recommendations. Two things we do know. The State Department of Transportation does not plan to construct the traffic circle at the entrance to Roger Williams University, which was a partial recommendation of the result of our traffic study that we did in 2010. They do plan to construct the left-hand turning lane at the north entrance, which will significantly reduce the amount of traffic backup that happens along Metacom at the peak hours, which would be in the morning. One thing about a security gate, though, to get in and off the campus right there, that's our primary direction for parking for students. We have the north lot and the parking garage. It all totals about almost 2/3 of our parking, so it's about 1,800 parking spaces. To put a gate and control that would cause traffic backup well out onto Metacom, and that was just something that we've recognized for a long time. And I don't disagree. There's security and public access in Rhode Island to the shoreline is always an issue. People park on Ferry Road.
Isn't this a different street, though? Isn't there another little area down there? No?
Nope. No. Marhar Center, that facility was used as a transportation hub. Marhar was a company that took on the name of the building. They ran people with developmental disabilities services all through the East Bay. They used that building as a transportation hub. So probably 60, 80 vans would show up in the morning, drop people off. They would repackage everybody and send them out to their jobs or doctor's appointments or other places where they would receive services. And then they would all return in the late afternoon and then disperse again. So it's a little bit different. But traffic and parking is a paramount issue to us because obviously it's a customer service issue that we see, and we are acutely aware of how it affects everybody in the neighborhood.
So let's do this. We've got a recommendation from the chief. I heard Pete say yes, that sounds perfect. So at our next meeting, if you could, we'll make sure it's an agenda item that would speak about that and hear those and hear the response back on it. This is an open public, and we need to close this and decide what we want to do in this specific part of this. And that's a really important point here, because we're talking about a portion. But this is a grander scheme here. I understand that. So
I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing at this time after hearing 3 of the opposed.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Chief, did you want to add something?
Yes, if you don't mind, I will give it to the town administrator in writing, so you'll have it as a record for the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you.
For the following meeting. Okay?
Thank you. Okay. So what's this council's pleasure?
So if I could interrupt.
Please.
We're going to need 2 separate votes. So the first vote, if you're inclined, would be to approve the recommendation, the application to amend the comprehensive plan future land use map for Assessors Plat 163, Lot 42, from residential low density to EI, or educational, institutional, and to incorporate as part of that motion the findings and recommendations of the planning board from its meeting held on September 20th.
So moved with that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the second motion would be to amend the Bristol zoning map for this same Plat 163, Lot 42, from residential R40 to educational institutional zoning district, and that the parcel be included in Sector 1 of the Roger Williams University Campus Master Plan, again incorporating and adopting the recommendations made by the Planning Board in its meeting of September 20th as set forth in the correspondence from Diane Williamson.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I'm going to add just a little bit of discussion and clarity there, is that this is changing what the Marha Center is right now to part of the education zone. This in no way, shape, or form says that there isn't a lot more dialogue about what goes up, how it goes up, and we have boards and commissions in place, including zoning, planning, and a myriad of others that it must go through. That means that there is a wonderful opportunity, and there will be, wonderful opportunity for the public to speak for, against, near, or around what's going on. So this motion and the second, which is happening right now, does not preclude any of that conversation. All of that still will happen. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Was all that right? Did you read or were you making it up? It's all right here. Okay. Use that.
I think the clerk used a whole pad of paper on that one.
Close. Okay. The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item C1. This is the first reading of Ordinance 2016-13, which amends the Town Code to allow for stop intersection at Belvedere Drive at Sunrise Drive. This is the first reading.
Make a motion this constitutes the first reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item D1. This is the petition of Robert W. Santos, doing business as Bristol Family Restaurant, 533 Hope Street. Request Council consideration for sidewalk use license. You have recommendation provided by the Town Administrator, Director of Public Works, Code Compliance Coordinator, and Chief of Police to approve with certain conditions.
Is the applicant here? Is Mr. Santos here? No?
Hearing that, Mr. Chairman, upon the recommendations of all the departments and administration, with the recommendation of only a table with 2 chairs to the north of the entrance of this restaurant be allowed for the sidewalk use license.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think highly of the Bristol Family Restaurant, and the new management's doing a great job. I often have lunch there. But I don't think there's really room for this to happen. All agree it should not be on the south side because of the tree there. A tree on the street side and a 2-foot table on the store side would leave a very, very narrow passage. And in these recommendations, there's consistent reference to the ADA, the Disabilities Act, but I see no reference to the town's very extensive ordinance involving precise formula for measurements. And I believe that even the tables on the north side violate that. That sidewalk is pretty narrow. And as we all know, it's at the core of Bristol business, close to the center of town, which is the intersection of Hope Street and State Street, and close to the library, post office, and some very active business offices right there. And I believe that it's to be very unfortunate to, even on the north side, block off a lot of that sidewalk. And I also don't think the dimensions that are listed here conform to the particular ordinance that has been the law and rule in Bristol for about 5 years.
Well, to that, I would call upon the director of, I would believe that the abutter right next door, Councilman, has tables and chairs in the same instance, so I think it would be very discriminatory of the same narrow sidewalk that this business right next to another business, and we try to be pro-business, and that's why we're only accommodating 1 table and 2 chairs.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Mr. McBride.
Yes. Which question is this on? Which question did you want me to address? Councilman Herreshoff's question relative to the petitioner, or the issue of the adjacent business with tables and chairs on the sidewalk?
I would say the dimensions that all the departments had findings of those measurements to approve.
Right. As submitted, my recommendation was not to approve the southerly request because of the dimensions wouldn't meet the ADA criteria, which is a federal standard. But the chair and table located on the north side of the business, north of the doorway, would meet that criteria with plenty of dimension available. As to the abutter, I found that their situation was of similar issues. So
all I'm saying is we have all businesses downtown, and I think we set the ordinance and criteria to be fair for all, and I think it should be decided on that when petition has come in front of us. I certainly understand Councilman Herreshoff's concerns about the trees, because when we revised the ordinance, I believe I was the vocal one with those measurements of how we have all trees downtown and on State Street and on Wood Street, of how those trees will stay there. They've been there first, and they're going to stay there. But I just feel this business in front of us tonight, 1 table with 2 chairs, to accommodate them. It blends in with the streetscape. I understand it's downtown, it's busy, we have pedestrians walking, but to me, if you're walking by 2 tables, another table after those 2 tables, it's conformity.
Right. There's no problem with the federal criteria conformity on the north side. In fact, I even met with the business owner when I was out there doing my on-site measurements. I explained to her, what I had found and how the federal ADA criteria couldn't be met on the south side of the doorway because of the tree well. You can't expect individuals with disabilities to traverse a tree well on the sidewalk, which wouldn't be the right thing to do, and she completely understood. So I have no issues with the table and chair located on the north side of the doorway. I believe there's plenty of 9-foot plus sidewalk area in that particular instance, which would provide more than adequate space for people to walk around, whether they be in a wheelchair or restricted with disabilities.
So she could put in a much smaller table.
Well,
if wanted
she
to
has a
comply.
small table there. It's like 24 inches.
That would comply on that.
On the north side only. On
Yeah,
the
yeah.
south side, it's not going to make it,
Okay.
even with a small chair. She even brought it out, and I showed her how it wouldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So she was very amicable to the, what we were looking at and what the criteria was. And I tried to go over that with her so she'd have a good understanding that it wasn't just a town ordinance or somebody not wanting this to occur. It was a federal standard that we have to comply with.
I think it's also a really important point to hear that our town ordinance is actually more difficult to comply to, and I'm okay with that, than the ADA standard. The ADA standard requires less space than our town ordinance does. So, but to Councilman Stewart's point, this, and also yours, the area on the north has more than enough space to comply on not only ADA but our town ordinance.
Correct.
So.
And I must say, this past summer, when we all walked downtown, the restaurants during breakfast time, people are waiting on the sidewalk to get in, so maybe these tables can be utilized during the nice weather months that we have people from our town and out of town trying to dine in downtown.
And I would like to point out, too, that, when both myself and the code compliance officer have found instances where business had expanded their sidewalk use, I would say, when we brought it to their attention, they were quick to correct it. So, they weren't long-term issues. Once we brought it to their attention, they fixed it. So, which is a good thing. They understand and they comply pretty quickly.
My biggest concern is not, we're talking about tables and chairs, is with our business owners, and this will be a commercial, is to always make sure that your flags are high and not over the sidewalk. Because I feel sometimes we're walking into the flags and not the tables and chairs. So, and I made my motion for just...
Wait a second.
And I'll second the motion.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
The next item is the petition of Carmina Benavides, doing business as Casual Inn, 170 Franklin Street, request council consideration for a one-day dancing and entertainment license for October 29th from 7 to 10 p.m.
I would move we grant this for the one-night event of October 29.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One quick thing.
Of course.
Casual restaurant, sorry. It is not.
Come on right up, please.
Okay. The
Welcome.
date is listed wrong. It's actually October 28th, which is the Friday, not the 29th, the Saturday.
We'll correct it to have a motion for October 28th.
Thank you.
I'll second. Hi, Melissa.
I'm just making sure everything else matched. So we have that updated motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
If the council could also give me some guidance as to what the council would expect for a fee. The ordinance actually allows only for one class of license, and that's for the full year, and that's $100. The only other thing that we could possibly consider is that the one-day Sunday dancing and entertainment license is $15.
That would seem most appropriate to me.
So with the council's concurrence, the fee will be $15.
Well, just a general question on that, Mr. Assault. Am I correct in believing that even though we're right to have this basic condition in the type of ordinance, that the council has the authority to grant particular exceptions on occasion.
You can, and also my office is working on revisions to this ordinance. The ordinance is too simple and straightforward. It doesn't address a lot of the issues like this, so we'll be bringing that forward to you in the future.
So we'll call out the one day, the actual week. Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
The next item is item F1. This is the petition of David E. Barboza on behalf of Bristol Rotary Club. Request council consideration to install a stone marker in memory of Frederico Fred Pachico at the intersection of Franklin and Wood Streets. The council's packet may have been missing an illustration,
I have
which
one.
is provided at your desk.
I had mine.
Okay. Some were there, some were not. I don't know what happened.
Very welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and certainly all of my former colleagues in government here. I provided color copies, Mr. Chairman, so I noticed you all had black and white, so I'm not sure what happened to the color copies.
They're color.
But once again, on behalf of the Bristol Rotary Club, and my fellow Rotarians, Mike Davis included here, thank you for your prior granting to us of the naming of the intersection of Franklin and Wood Street after Frederico Fred Pachico, who is part of the fabric of our town. Mosaic, if you will, like the park on the southeast corner of Franklin Street. In that particular park is a statue of his dear friend and another Bristol icon, Dr. Manuel Luciano da Silva. When Fred was very instrumental in making sure that a bust was put there of Dr. da Silva. And the bust will be looking directly at this planting garden, which is at the opposite corner of Franklin and Wood Street, where this proposed marker will be. And I'm sure that Dr. da Silva will be smiling down upon us that day. At the suggestion of our town administrator, I did speak with Eduardo, also known as George, who is the gentleman that runs the Azorian Butcher, and who graciously takes care of that particular garden in typical, true Portuguese fashion, making sure that it is very presentable with a lot of great plantings. And this would only involve moving one hosta and one small plant. He's very supportive of this idea and certainly, as I said, supports it and is happy that I did go and see him. This event, with the council's approval, will take place on Saturday, October 22nd at 2 p.m. An invitation certainly will be forthcoming to each and every one of you. So once again, on behalf of the Bristol Rotary Club, Fred's family, I thank you for your consideration in this. I did provide you with an idea what the marker is going to say, which I'm publicly not revealing. That's for your edification. And I leave it in your hands.
David, I've been meaning to speak to you about this and just some thoughts on details of it.
Sure.
And I might, since I didn't get a chance to do that, bring them out here. For one thing, if you have that plaque, which would be nicely visible from the sidewalk, it's sort of customary in these kind of cases to also have some mention of the name of the corner from the driving side. I almost think there should be also a small and dignified sign on the street side, so when you drive by, you know it's...
Yeah, what I'm planning on doing, Halsey, and that is also in your particular packet, is to have a street sign similar to a street sign, and that would be on the opposite corner, which would be the northeast corner.
Well, that would be fine.
So that people driving by...
Well, that'd be the northwest corner on the opposite side, right?
No, actually, no, northeast. So in other words, it would be opposite, I'm sorry, if you're walking south on Wood Street, in front of the East Bay Food Pantry, once you cross over Franklin Street on that pole there. So
well, that's the west side.
Is it west side? No, east.
I'm a navigator.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to, all right, I'll leave it to you. But the stone
I don't know if you caught that zing or not, Dave, because that was a zing right there. So.
The stone will be on one side, and the pole marker will be on the other.
Well, I think it's just fine.
And
now,
the location...
on the plaque itself,
yeah.
We're all very proud of Fred.
Mm-hmm.
He meant a lot to this town. He did all kinds of things, and as you said, he was the spearhead for the wonderful statue of Dr. De Silva, and I think honoring the two of them close together, both who have been great citizens of Bristol, is very appropriate. But just a thought here, maybe you'll find this humorous. Fred says here he's a citizen of the world, which
Correct.
is true.
Yep.
It's fine.
The title of his
At
book,
the bottom,
actually.
he has, be the change you want to see in the world, Mahatma Gandhi. Well, I don't think Mahatma Gandhi was ever a resident of Bristol, and I'd almost rather see a quotation from Fred Pachico there on the bottom.
Well, what I did, Halsey, is I had a different thought in my mind, and that was the fact, the quote that Fred left this world a better place than what he found it. But certainly, while the marker is going to be there to honor Fred, I left it to his family to decide what they wanted to put on the marker, and that is what they decided.
Was this a favorite saying of Fred's?
I'm not sure, but it was. I know that the Pachico family had a meeting, and they discussed a number of different quotations, and that's the one that the family decided
Well, I
on.
think you're right to go by their wishes, but I'd almost rather have a Bristol statement there. But
Well, I certainly will relay that because there's still,
Maybe we could
still
have
a little
both.
bit of time to change it if we...
maybe we could have both.
Yeah, okay.
David,
Point well taken.
David, I thank you. I thank the Bristol Rotary, and to that, look forward to October 22nd at 2 o'clock. And with that, I would like to make a motion to receive and file.
Does it?
No, it needs to be...
Approve it? I thought we did that the last time. That's
Well,
fine.
I think approve the placement of the marker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
Just, I think it's a nice tribute.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is
Thank you,
nice.
Tim.
Very nice.
Very nice.
I think we're all agreed.
Okay.
Motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, this is election season, as you well know.
I didn't know that. Really? Tell me more.
Thought I saw some signs with your pictures around. But, this is the first time in 16 years I haven't been on the ballot, and that's certainly sort of bittersweet. But I wish all of you good luck in the upcoming election. You all do a great job. And to Halsey, former colleague in government, certainly thank you for the 34 years
34,
of
right.
public service to the town of Bristol. You have certainly been an asset, and your wisdom will be missed. So good
Well,
luck
thank
to you,
you for
Halsey.
that, David, and I will remind you that I have in the drawer of my desk here a
Oh,
very
boy.
nice note that you left me 4 years ago. It says, Halsey, have a soda on me. It's been a pleasure, David. I haven't gotten the soda yet, but I appreciate it.
I left you a quarter. I think you spent it, Halsey. Right? But on one last note, Halsey, my last couple of council meetings, I had I brought my little duck, my little lame duck. I'd be more than happy to give it to you for the next
Thank you
council
very
meeting.
much.
You can keep it there. Thank you and good night. Appreciate it.
Mr. Clerk.
The next item, Mr. Chairman of the Town Council, it's the first item under your Public Service Appointments section. You have the Economic Development Commission. There are 2 seats available with terms to expire September 2019. You have one applicant, Jerry Daughtry of 4 Liberty Lane, requests council consideration for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
I heard 3 motions. So we're,
3 motions
we're
in
happy
one
what
sentence,
Jerry's
though.
doing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The
just
next
had a-
item is the 4th of July committee roster for 2016, 2017.
The only thing I'd say about that is that it should be labeled what it is. It just says member list for the town council. And I think all these memorandums, such as that G1B, ought to say what they are, and they ought to say who submitted it, just as a matter of good form.
With that,
Good idea.
make a motion to adopt the 2016 and 2017 list provided by the 4th of July Committee, and thank them once again for their service.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Just a quick discussion, Lou, I just noticed that one of the Economic Development Commission, it looks like Ethan Tucker's is set to expire as well. Same note on that one?
You must have submitted anything.
We would have sent anybody that was expiring a notice and asked them to reapply.
Okay.
That hasn't
Just wanted to make-
hasn't come forward.
Okay.
The
Okay.
only one that we've received is from Mr. Daughtry.
Just that one. Okay.
So we have a motion and a second for the 4th of July Committee 2016-2017. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next is the Historic District Commission Auxiliary to fill an expired term to expire in July of 2019. You have an application from Christopher Ponder of 736 Hope Street who is interested in having an appointment.
I'd like to thank Mr. Ponder and schedule an interview with Mr. Ponder. And with that, with these appointments, just a quick commercial to the public that there are a lot of vacancies on our boards and commissions, and to move our town forward as an extension of this council with the involvement and a lot that's going on. Anyone who's interested, please, as the chairman always states, we appreciate your time and effort serving the community. So, thank you.
So we need to set up an interview with Christopher, and we also have a pending interview with an alternate on the zoning board, as we were speaking of earlier, right? So I'll work with the clerk. We can put a couple of dates out there, and we'll set something up in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, great. Very good.
So we need a motion to that effect?
If we have a motion, we need a second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the first item under old business. This was from Councilwoman's prerogative of August 24th regarding solar trash compactors. I believe that the town administrator provides a memorandum for this meeting as a late item.
So I had seen these. I didn't realize they were this close to us in Warren and in Newport, but I had seen one on the Cape, and I was looking at it and thought, what a great idea this would be for Bristol, because there are some locations in town, particularly around Independence Park in the summer, where by Sunday evening the trash is overflowing and is an absolute mess. The second location, I think, is a pretty much tied for a mess, is the corner of State and Hope. And I thought this would be a good location. I had done a little research, but of course the pricing wasn't in any of it. So just, you had to contact the company, and we referred it to the administrator to get back to us with it. And that is what is on here tonight. And it is a lot more expensive than I thought it would be, I have to say. So it's almost $5,000 for one of them. And then you can get, specialized side panels and wireless communication and so forth. So if you get everything with the extended warranty, sounds like a car, with the extended warranty, it's $6,500. I do think that it would be worth us looking for funding. I think you pointed out that both Warren and Newport had gotten theirs with funding, with grant money. And I do think for those particular locations, particularly I would say if I had to pick one, I think I would pick that Franklin and Thames Street area by Independence Park, which is an absolute disaster. And see if we can't move forward, Diane, in looking for some way to fund this, and to see if they give, if anybody else is going in on them, do they give any discounts if you buy so many of them? I think the one in Warren, after people had pointed it out to me, told me it was near the Dells. I don't know if that's like the Warren bought that or if the state bought that, because it's right on the bike path area.
No, it was actually Warren. Warren and Newport, they all purchased with grant money.
Now, which grant did they tell you?
They didn't give me the specifics on the grant, but I certainly can acquire that information if necessary.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And I think I think the one I've seen, the other ones, I think Massachusetts had big grant funds available for theirs as well. And I think it just make things, it'll hold a whole lot more trash, it'll compact it down using solar, and I think it would just make the area a lot neater. I mean, when you start having to, I don't know who puts them out, whether it was the businesses or what, when you start having, extra trash bags just tacked up because the trash bins are overflowing with ice cream and other food items in that area, it just looks like a mess. We pride ourselves on a town that looks nice, but we haven't yet conquered the trash problem on the weekends. So I would ask that we continue this, and Diane looks into some funding. Obviously, we don't really have a huge issue until next spring, so maybe we could figure out something between now and then.
Maybe we can refer this to Diane and the administrator?
There's the motion, yes.
Second.
To seek funding and to get back to us when they have some thoughts about how we could make this happen. Okay?
There was a second. Is there discussion?
Yeah. One thing I would also look at, Diane, to make sure there's no dangers to this if somebody puts their hand in the thing or something like that. Let's have a little advice about whether or not there's any risk.
Mary, I just want to let you know I was talking to Mario Andrade, superintendent of the schools, and he would also like to partner with us on this as well, because at the football field there's quite a lot of trash, especially on the weekends. It loaded underneath the bleachers, right next to the snack bar, so it's also a high traffic area. So Diane, just to let you know that, yeah, that'd be great. They're interested as well.
That might be a good place to do a prototype, Tim,
And I think the other thing is whether
I
or
think
not...
in these kind of things, you want to go with a prototype first to see how well it works.
Well, it works in many places. I mean, it's not like, there are, I think, I have to look through my notes, but on the packet that I submitted a few meetings ago, I just put it in here, there are, I mean, like Philadelphia or some city has like thousands of them. I mean, this is not some new technology. There's thousands and thousands of them around in different cities and... 500, yeah, in Philadelphia. I mean, there's many of them out there, and you can just read through here, and you can go on the website, and you can find a lot about this container. And so I think that it's well worth looking for it. I also think that, I hate to say this, but I mean, maybe there's some, tourism money or something else. I mean, we can look at. Because we really do need to address this in certain locations.
We do.
I think with the discussion going forward with all the energy initiatives, it could tie right into that, so...
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we can use the $5,000 that we win from getting 475 people to sign up.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll use it as a first step.
We'll do a workshop.
I think it's important to note, too, is that these trash bins that we're speaking of do get emptied multiple times a week. So this is not lack of staying up with them, and nor was it suggested. But they just get used so much, which is great, instead of being on the ground, but you can only hold so much in them. So we have a motion and a second to refer to Diane and Walter and the administrator. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, also continued from August 24th, is Councilman Stewart's request for status on the construction easements and final draft of Tanyard Brook Phase 2.
Yes, thank you. Actually, Kevin Agard is here to really update things for us. However, I can tell you that quite an effort between him, Kevin, myself, and Ray Falcoa were able to reach every single person that we had not reached previously. So we actually have gotten to round 2, where some folks actually have returned the draft easements and told us what they thought about the inventory of the properties and whether we needed to make some modifications on those easements. But I'll let Kevin jump in and bring us up to speed on the...
Kevin, before you do, Mr. Solicitor, I talked to you about this a little bit earlier. I know that in some of these conversations, some of these things need to happen in the background, just like for purchase. Could you help us with something on that?
Right. With some of the financial information really needs to be discussed in executive session. What I would recommend is that you take a vote now to add to your agenda an executive session pursuant to 42465A5, acquisition of real property and leases for discussion purposes only.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Kevin, please.
Okay, thank you. As the town administrator just mentioned, following the last meeting with your clear direction, we were...
Very kind of you, Kevin. Very nice words.
I thought we were very nice.
It was very clear. We were able to reach out to the outstanding property owners. With that being said...
Fantastic.
Yeah, with that being said, we've contacted all 35 property owners. They all have copies of the draft easements. As the town administrator said, we've gotten some positive feedback from about 20 of those property owners. So we're moving forward with developing some budgetary cost estimates. We don't have them all yet. We're still reaching out to the folks that have not responded after that initial conversation with them. So we still have some work to do. We're still It's ongoing. We hope to wrap that up within the next week or two. We've sent them all reminder notices saying, we need you to respond to those easements. So we are actively pursuing that information as well. So I think we're in a good state to keep moving forward with the easements. We have some budget numbers that we need to discuss. And so from the easement standpoint, we're in good shape. The next issue is probably the project budget, which we will be providing that to the town early next week. And again, that would be for discussion purposes as well, moving forward with the project.
Kevin, remind this council and the people, what was our timeline when we first started talking about this? What did we kind of point to the right field wall and say we're going there?
Project schedule?
Yes, sir.
Our intent and our schedule is really to have the design completed in December of this year. We're prepared to submit permits on or about the middle of October. There's the DEM timeframe is probably 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks for turnaround on a permit. So we're right on target to have everything designed and permitted by December, and then it'll be a question of sequencing things, lining it up for construction.
Okay. Since you've got the easements, I'll take it easy because it was supposed to be November, but
we're working on them.
Yeah.
We don't have them all.
But the timeline, it's just good news that we're moving forward finally, and we're not held up by these easements. And this council, for a long period of time on this project, we're very well aware of the budgetary restraints going forward on Phase 2, and that's why come election on November 8th, the $17 million bond referendum, it's something to consider of magnitude of projects like this that this town has to go forward and complete would be tied with our due diligence on allocating those funds. So just thank you again, and now that we can keep along with the timeline and go forward and not be held up. So
to remind everyone, that $17 million that Councilman Stewart just mentioned is the bond referendum question that you'll see, and it pertains to this dialogue because $7 million of that bond referendum is to or is put for drainage, not necessarily all of it go towards Tanyard Brook Phase 2. Why do you care? Why would you say yes to something like this? Because last time we did, Phase 1, we matched federal funds, so we got twice as much done for half the cost. That's why this is so important. So we're setting ourselves up for success as opposed to failure. There will be federal funds in some way, shape, or form that we will be able to take advantage of if we have the money to match it. That's why this is one of the multiple things that are a part of that question, and that's why it's appropriate to say yes to it, but obviously it's up to the voters. So, is there anything else that you wanted to add, Kevin?
No. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Executive session, is that tonight?
Sir, yes, sir.
At the end?
Yes, sir.
Great.
You're welcome. We love you so much, we wanted you to stay, sir. So.
Looking forward to it.
I know you are. He's asking us to move it along, and so we will. So.
All right, then I will see you at the conclusion.
Thank you. Councilman Stewart, what's your pleasure on this agenda item?
given that information, I'll make a motion, we probably continue this to the first of the year, or after the first of the year, after December, when everything goes out, and we have more discussion on the budget.
So our first
to January, correct?
January.
To January 1st, yes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item also continued from August 24th. This has to do with the Bristol County Water Authority Interconnect with East Providence and Pawtucket.
I understand we have our directors here, 2 of our directors here, or 3?
And we have the executive director.
Oh, you can help.
Just raise your hand. But she's been working with this problem for the past meeting, so she'll work with you.
Okay. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you. Just to bring you up to date with the latest, we did meet with the Department of Administration Director, Mike DiBiase, about any future plans for water projects that could be funded for the state. They do not foresee anything this year. There's not a bond year for the state. They are forming a study commission, however, on water. And we met with him with our attorney, and Joe Keogh, and actually Joe was asked to become a member of the commission, which should be a good support for us. He's also the attorney for Pawtucket and for Newport Water as well, and is familiar with a number of other water systems in the state. So I think based on his broad knowledge of water systems and their legal issues in the state, he was asked to be part of this. So we're hopeful that will help bring the whole issue with water systems and their need for infrastructure improvements to the forefront. Right now, there are no champions, shall we say, in the state to support water or infrastructure improvements for water. As you know, several years ago, we did have a bond at the state legislature that was not supported by our partner, who was East Providence, and was fought by the City of Providence Water Department because they were afraid it would detract from their revenues. So at this point, there is no program other than this study with the state going forward at the state level. We are waiting for the results of the elections. It has been strongly suggested that we address this issue with our legislators going forward, as they would be the ones to support any and submit any bills, one of which is changing our Bristol County Water Act that requires us to maintain the Massachusetts supplies. Obviously, we don't want to support that. It's extremely expensive. The state was supposed to pay for any infrastructure improvements according to the legislation, but when we went back for funding, they're saying they have no money available. So we've been pushing that on several occasions. We did get a partial reimbursement, but not a full reimbursement at this time. We are not really optimistic that we'll get a full reimbursement, but hopefully we can get another partial payment going forward. So meanwhile, we have all the responsibility for those supplies, and they're really not usable. We've been maintaining the treatment plant as a backup in an emergency. It's considered non-potable because we don't run it on a continuous basis. So the main idea is to try and get alternative connections. So one thing we are doing, we're starting an interconnection next month. In October, will be installed with East Providence. What we're going to install is a connection to their 16-inch water main, which is just outside of our connection coming from Providence. That will give us a backup of about 2 million gallons of water a day in case we should lose our pipeline connection. We are also looking to run an extension to the town of Swansea, who has supported us with setting up an interconnection there, which would give us about 1 million gallons a day of water. Of course, this connection with East Providence still will only give us an alternative connection to Providence water. It does not provide us with an alternative source of supply should something occur on the Providence side of the system. So the board at this point in time had provided for a design of the pipeline, which we call Phase 1, going from our connection with Providence up to the East Providence tank. Should that connection be built, it would give us about 6 million gallons of water a day, which would give us more than enough supply. The board feels this is an important connection to install. We were looking, though, for East Providence to partner with us on that because they would also benefit from that in a reverse flow situation. At this point in time, they still do not support spending any money on an interconnection. And of course, then the final phase would be going all the way to Pawtucket. We are still hoping that we might be able to get some state funds as a result of this infrastructure study. They're hoping there's a possibility of setting up a statewide bond for water infrastructure for which we would be able to apply for funds from that bond. But there will never be another bond set up that would be specifically for Bristol County water, not in the near future anyway.
Where do we stand on cost of the connection to East Providence?
The cost for the 16-inch interconnection for about 2 million gallons a day is about $500,000. It'll come in probably just under that. The cost to go to the tank is about $4.5 million. The cost all in for everyone involved in the Pawtucket is about $27 million. Originally, we were planning...
just say that again?
About $27 million.
Wow.
Originally, Pawtucket was going to pay part, East Providence was going to pay part, and the state was going to pay half. And we actually had a bond on the agenda to do that, and it got pulled. So at this point in time, it's critical for us to get a backup supply, but obviously we still want to try to obtain some matching funds for that.
Question, Pam. What is the diameter of our currently used pipe that dips under the Providence River?
That's a 24-inch water main under the river.
So here's my question. Presumably, if eventually we achieve somehow the connection to Pawtucket, which if eventually done would make us very safe in the event of failure of the pipeline under the river, wouldn't we then prefer that the line from here to East Providence was 24 inches rather than 16?
What we're doing now is we're connecting into an existing 16-inch main in East Providence. The future main to go to the tank will be 24 inches.
But I thought that I'd been advised in the previous hearing on this that the planned pipe from here to East Providence would eventually be one element of a longer run up to Pawtucket.
Correct.
So why not make it 24 inches in anticipation of the ultimate use of it in that particular portion of the run?
The plan for Phase 1 actually is a 24-inch pipe that would run from our Providence connection to the East Providence tank, and then a 30-inch main would go from Providence tank up to the Pawtucket line.
Well, are you saying then that in that eventuality the 16-inch would be no longer used?
No, not likely. What it is...
Why not build it bigger now so they can be a component of the bigger job?
I'm sorry, but the 16-inch main is an existing main. It's an East Providence transmission main that they have in use. We're just going to tie into it.
How far does that go? What percentage of the distance is the current 16-inch going to go?
It's just going to tie into our meter pit, which sits right in front of the 16-inch main.
Well, the question is this. It's a certain distance from the East Providence terminus down to our terminus. And I'd like to ask you which percentage of that particular distance is to be occupied by the new 16-inch pipe? Is it half of it, all of it, a quarter of it? How much?
Well, at present time, the 16-inch supplies East Providence. They use that as their transmission main to supply the lower area of East Providence.
Okay, but how many miles does that go?
Thank you.
It's probably about a mile and a half.
And how long is going to be the new 16-inch pipe?
I think the confusion here is Pam is trying to explain. If we had a diagram, we could show it. But the 16-inch tie-in to their existing 16-inch line is not part of what would be built that would be the larger 24-inch line.
Well, that's a change from testimony we had here 6 months ago.
You're going to have to speak to that because I don't know.
No, we were told 6 months ago that this initial pipe was going to be part of the ultimate run from here all the way to Pawtucket, and now you're saying it's not.
I believe I was referring to Phase 1 at that time. What we're calling Phase 1 is the 24-inch pipe. We're doing a temporary interconnection right now with the 16, so we have a backup existing.
With all respect, as an engineer, I don't think that makes any sense. If you're going to spend money for a pipe that goes part way from here to Pawtucket, you ought to make it suitable that it's a part of the big project that will eventually come. You'll save money in the end. You'll spend a little more money now, but you'll save it in the end. And you never, when you go from 16 inches to 24, you more than double the flow, and you're not anywhere near double the cost. I think you should revisit that.
I don't think we're connecting.
Well, I'm connecting with you perfectly, and I'd like to talk to you about it tomorrow and give you a better idea of what I'm saying. I'd also like to make one other remark. My recollection doesn't quite match yours regarding the previous effort to get funding on this. 2 years ago, there was a strong hope on the part of many that we would benefit from $15 million as a part of a very large state bond issue. And I was advised on good authority from the General Assembly that the reason we didn't get into that big bond issue was that the Bristol County Water Authority never submitted sufficient information in a timely way for us to be included. And that is exactly the way it was, and I think that ought to be recognized by the public, that we made some failure in that respect, and I hope we never will make a failure like that again.
Well, can I just say one thing about that, though? It's somewhat disagreement. I agree with most of what Halsey said, except for the fact that I think it was specific legislators who represented Bristol in one case that didn't agree that you had given the information. Because we heard the information at some of those tri-town meetings, and personally, I felt that you had provided those answers. So I think it's like a difference of opinion as to whether or not that was complete information. So, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that we had people who were high-level legislators who didn't feel that that was adequate, because it really hurt what we were trying to do. I'm a big proponent, as you know, as the redundancy of source. And, you know, did I just say that right? I'm not sure. That didn't sound right when I said it. Having a backup source, another source, not just another pipeline to the same source. And so, I mean, I am concerned about that. I'm concerned that we lost a good chance to be able to move forward with that project. And I feel that that had to do more with local legislators than it not agreeing with what you were providing, than whether or not you provided the correct information. Because I think you answered those questions to my satisfaction, and I've been long looking at this issue. So I just want to, I think it's a difference of opinion on that, and whether or not you know, the Water Authority in this case provided the information. I think that you did. I think that you got caught up 2 years ago, and from what I gather here, sporadically here and there on the news, or in, if I happen to go to a place that has the East Providence Post, that not much has changed in the East Providence political scene. And I think this project was caught up in, you know, controversy internally, you know, between the council, nothing to do with this project, having to do with the council and the manager not getting along and so forth and so on, and not communicating information. And unfortunately, that hasn't seemed to resolve itself very well. It keeps going back and forth, and there's always some drama going on. But I think that we're caught up in the middle of it, and, you know, I think that, you know, you guys have, the Water Authority seems to imply that there's a very big source of water in Pawtucket, that they are looking to wholesale it out and so forth. But I also believe that there's a lot of people looking to buy their water. And I just hope that we're not going to end up in a big situation, because we can't move beyond the East Providence situation, you know, and what's happening politically there. And yet, $27 million is a lot of money. It's too much money, I think, to take on ourselves. Right. And so I think the state does need to step in, and it's disappointing to hear that it doesn't look like, I believe what you're saying is, it doesn't look like there's going to be a big water improvement bond issue at state level in the near future. And I think that's unfortunate, because they're not addressing the redundancy issue around the state, and I don't understand why they're not. You know, the whole state, not the whole state, but a large part of it relies on one source. And I think it's like, it's very foolish.
At the end of the day, our residents in Bristol, Warren, and Barrington, number one, want quality water, a redundancy of water at a good rate. In the future, we read about it, the commodity of water is a resource that's going to be very valuable. Me personally, living here on the East Bay with the BCWA, that commodity of the discussions of my colleagues of how there was audits, there were studies of the tie-in to Massachusetts and the options. We're very tired, we're frustrated, all we get is these different answers. But just to back up to the 16-inch pipe that Councilman Herreshoff was saying, for the Interconnect, I think the phase from the Interconnect to the tank, which is the Kent Tower tank, right? Is that 24 or 16?
That's a 24.
And that is going to go forward. It's part of your capital plan, and if I am correct, that project is moving forward, set aside of the phase after that to tie into Pawtucket with your board and the Bristol County Water Authority. Is that correct?
Well, at this point in time, the design is being completed. Yes, the board has not yet voted to move forward with the actual construction of that.
To that tank?
That's correct.
Okay. So my point is, We get your audit every year, and aside from the directors, you do a fine job representing Bristol. But it's coming to a time now, I think, with the studies and how this is going year after year. I know a conversation has to take place with the three towns once more of maybe our own forensic audit to keep a pulse on the dollars of this commodity of a water resource that we have and the projects going forward, because this is getting very tiresome of this topic about water and the tie-ins and the redundancy. And I think we have to be more conscientious and aware of this topic, and that's all I'm going to say about this tonight, on top of the water meters, which we're going to get into, which I believe you should have a comment on also.
I mean, are you suggesting a forensic audit, which often implies fraud of some kind or other issues?
No, more
use
of...
that word? I mean, are you talking... No, go ahead.
More of the accountability of the studies that were done, studies going forward for the redundant source, and the numbers that come in front of us.
I would call it a clear plan. And I mean, the last time we met, the three towns on this, one town didn't want to go forward and two towns did. I mean, that's the other problem. I mean, I think it's often easy, and I've been critical myself of the Water Authority. In this case, I'm not sure it's all the Water Authority. I mean, some of it is a political mess in East Providence. It's three towns here, two of which want to do one thing and one doesn't necessarily want to do the other, do it or go forward. And we end up in a situation that we don't have an emergency supply, which is what this connection of a 16-inch main is. We don't have, a more stable, I guess, emergency supply or backup supply, and we don't have a redundant source, and we can't use our own system any longer because it won't meet EPA standards or whatever. So, I mean, we end up in a big situation that's been going on since I first went to the legislature, which was in 1992, 93, and 1994. So, I mean, this is how long this issue's been dragging on. And, it would be nice to be able to say that, okay, we gave up our, we agreed that we give up our system to go to Pawtucket. That was one of the big discussion points in the past. And now we can't move there because we don't have the option for our state money. And I think the state needs to do something about that. I really do.
Well, that's why I think we need to protect ourselves as a community, Bristol, Barrington, Warrenton, because I think the state is going to go forward with a statewide bond next session because they need to. The infrastructure throughout the state is just decimated, especially in Providence. And my concern about the commodity of water to our residents is the rate structure that once we get tied into Pawtucket, which I know is a quality water, but what is my sound in the alarm is the infrastructure throughout the state and the cost that's going to be associated with water rates to the ratepayer throughout Rhode Island. And I just want to put caution. That's why I think sometimes we have to take more preliminary measures in a proactive stance with this.
Well, I mean, we need to upgrade infrastructure. That's no question about it on many areas. But you got to be careful of that debate as it goes forward, that all the money doesn't go to just upgrade the infrastructure, and you don't come up with a redundancy issue throughout the state. It needs to be part and parcel of the same discussion. And I don't think that the redundancy for every water authority becomes an issue. Nobody seems to care about it. I'm sure there are people sitting on boards that do care, but it never makes any progress. Hasn't made progress in like 25, 30 years.
It's very difficult when we don't have an existing emergency to convince people that you need to spend the money to have this redundancy in the future. I've spoken before legislature on a number of occasions, and they said, well, we haven't had a problem so far, and so they don't want to address it.
Pam, it seems like as long as I can feel my colleagues' frustration, because as long as I've been elected, it's also been the constant meetings we've been connecting. What are the alternatives for us as far as this goes? I mean, if we don't connect to Pawtucket, is there ways to drill for water? Is there ways to look at other reservoirs? I mean, what are some of the alternatives that we could look at? Because it seems like this is never going to end. It's just this constant,
again,
never-ending
the least
story.
expensive alternative is to go to Pawtucket, even at the $27 million. East Providence, as I keep saying, and someday they'll wake up, they have no alternative. They have a very weak pipeline that goes to Pawtucket. They have to do something in the near future. So at that point, maybe with a new political regime that may come in at some time, maybe they'll take a little better look at it. The administration, who has to deal with those issues, is very well aware of their problems and the fact that they need to do this. Unfortunately, because of the political dissension going on in that city now, they can't get together with the council to be able to come up with a plan to protect their water source for the future. At some point, they're not going to have much choice.
So you're saying this is the only route that we can do?
This is really about the only thing we can do and obtain sufficient amount of water for our supply. And it's the cheapest. I've actually applied. There is now some federal, it's not grant money, but they're looking at it as loan money, perhaps eventually into some grant money. I've done a preliminary application for this new program, which is part of which they're going to help with Flint, Michigan. And they said we would qualify because we would be doing it as a regional system. We would be doing it's got to be over $20 million project to begin with, but because we would involve 3 communities, they said this could qualify as a possible loan in the future, perhaps some grant funds. So I am pursuing that to see if it would help in the future, and then maybe the state might match some of that in the future as well. So there's still possibilities out there, but they're not going to happen next year.
Pam, I would just like to say one more thing. With respect, I disagree with your statement that we don't have an emergency. The truth is, we do have an emergency. Obviously, when it's finally worked out that we can build this long connection to Pawtucket, it's going to take a long time to do it. The emergency we've got is that any day, the current pipeline, which is remotely very deep under the river because of the way the Save the Bay made us do it, would be very hard to repair. It's now some 20 years old. It's going to fail at some point. Maybe it can be repaired, but it won't be repaired immediately. We do have an emergency, and we need to regard this whole effort for redundancy as an emergency and press on with it and not listen to anybody that says it's not an emergency because the pipe hasn't broken yet. That's a wrong way of looking at it.
I heartily agree.
Unfortunately, that's how the legislature...
The difference, though, Pam, is that you're in the position to move it forward. There is no political derision here. All 5 of us and the people that are sitting here are all saying the same thing. And Councilman Sweeney put it very well, is that since I've been elected, we've had almost this exact... I bet you we could play this meeting back, overdub it to the one that we had when we first got on, and heard almost exactly the same thing. The frustration, I don't think my colleagues do either. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It is too important to say, let's wait for this, let's wait for that. Come back to us with what you need to get done. Not, I'm hoping that this might happen. Maybe this will happen. I think East Providence is a great place, but I don't represent East Providence. I'm not going to wait for East Providence to see what we see is the right thing to do. Maybe they have a different reason for it. That's okay. It's their right. But we can't wait for them anymore. We cannot. You've already said it multiple times. We're not going to convince them. Fine. Let's stop trying. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right.
Same results. Let's stop talking about this. And on that note, on our last meeting, we had some information shared with us about meters and $4 million to be spent on meters. And our directors, we asked our directors not to vote on that because we did not have enough information. They said they didn't have enough information. I'm looking at an email from Gina McDonald, one of our directors, sent to you on August 29th that asked you for some information. And tomorrow's a month on this. And Gina, did you get a response back on this? No. So we're looking for, our directors asked you for information. You didn't give it to them, and they had a month to do it. And what I'm talking about specifically is that it was suggested that we needed to spend $4 million for meters that a lot of people in the water company saying we don't need. Our directors, please. Our directors don't have enough information to say, yes, this is appropriate, or no, it's not. But I don't know why you didn't respond to this. What we'd like to know now is, what is the need to go forward on it? Why would we spend $4 million on, they all can't be bad. I know mine was replaced semi-recently. I remember them coming down to do it. So why would we do all of this?
At this point in time, we have scheduled a workshop for the board, and we've had a number of questions from different board members. So we're putting together all that information to be able to address at the workshop. We will be sending information out before the workshop, which is October 6th. So just as in response to the questions. Some of it is very detailed information that we've had to put together, so we want to make sure we have enough that will present everything we need to do for the board. As far as the meters, I'm not really ready to address that until we address the meeting with the board. But overall, we've reached the life limit of at least 6,000 of our meters. There's new technology out there now. The old technology is going away. It's not supported anymore. We have to look at doing a new meter system. So at this point in time, we started looking at the technology. We did a request for information for meter systems. We evaluated 5 different types of meter systems. And then we looked at also the existing ones we have in the system. We want to go to monthly billing. We want to be able to provide operate more efficiently for our customers. And we need to collect data. Right now, we really have no idea what our water loss is. We do meter readings once a quarter. We can get all the information we need of the master meter, of the water coming into the system, but when you're only looking at water usage every 1 point every quarter, we guesstimate as to how much water we're losing, because there's a lot of unmetered water that's in the system. You have fire flows, you have usage by towns for street washings, you have theft of water, you have people that use hydrants. So in order to get a handle on that, we need a much better data collection system. So we're looking at the next batch of meters as well, which will be at least 10 years old. You replace meters every 15 years. And is it really worth it? And this is one of the questions the board will address. Is it worth it to continue with the existing system as is, or to replace the majority of our meters so we can get a better handle on our system, on the data? We can provide that for our customers. We can have better leak detection. We can figure out where our water is going. It will tie into our existing modeling programs. We can find out where there's losses in the system, where we have pressure problems in the system, where we can identify a lot more how we want to address our capital program to fix issues that we may not know we have right now. And that's the whole part of this, is looking at data collection and being able to use it to better operate the system and operate it much more efficiently.
Well, I'm interested to hear from...
But this is a question that needs to be addressed by the board.
I'm interested to hear from our directors, not tonight, but in response to some of the questions were asked. You mentioned, actually, Gina, said that proposed for updating, what about the 6,000 meters that are at the end of their useful life versus 11,500 meters being all replaced? For myself, I would rather have the money go towards a useful option like a redundant water source. All of your points were good ones, but if I have to choose between new meters and once a quarter reading or a redundant water source, gosh, I'm going to go with a redundant water source every single time. I think that this is nice, but there's other things that are more important. So
okay.
I'm interested to hear back from both of you. I know my colleagues are too. So this meeting again is when, please?
October 6th.
And this is in Warren at headquarters, if you will?
Yes, it'll be at our boardroom at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Do my colleagues have other questions?
Yeah, Pam, I just wonder if spending all that money on the meters is really worth it, because you have a lot of deteriorating pipes. Is there money being looked into to see what types of leaky pipes there are out there where you're losing a lot of water? I mean, past behavior is usually indicative of future behavior, so you tend to know what their water bill is and that sort of thing. But I would think the money would be better spent really looking at the infrastructure pipes underneath and finding out, saying, hey, listen, these are really old pipes. These need to be replaced. We're probably losing a lot of water there.
Well, we do a professional leak detection throughout the whole system every other year, and that's been minimal when they do find something that's repaired. We do rate our pipes as far as ones that need to be replaced sooner rather than later. We've gotten a lot of the low-hanging fruit, but now we're trying to get into more asset management, trying to really determine where we can spend the most amount of money for the least amount of money for the most effect, where we can actually optimize better operation of the system. And that's where the meters would help a lot. But the issue with most of them will need to be replaced within the next 5 years. So it's an issue of, do we do it now? As they get older, they do lose accuracy, and they read lower, not higher. So there is also a factor that we're losing revenue as the meters age as well. So this is something we'll be presenting to the board for the meetings. So it's a decision, looking at going one way or the other. Is it better to do it now? Because there are a lot of costs involved with the existing system and the way we have to read the meters and maintain those now compared to what a new meter system would cost. So you have to look at all those variables as well. Is it better to do it now and catch it up front, or wait 5 years from now when they all have to be replaced, and then they have to, what the cost will be at that point?
So why don't we do this? If Councilman Stewart is amenable, this was your agenda item, if we could continue this to the next meeting so we can get an update of what happens at the October 6th meeting. On a side note, too, I know that Rep. Marshall had put in a bill to set up a commission to actually look at exactly what you were speaking of, Councilman Stewart. I don't know if that progressed or if that's still in committee. I don't know. But I know that was something that happened. So,
because we did
are you okay
support
with
that with...
Yeah, I'm okay with the first part, and the second part, as Pam said, we'll have to know where everything lies after November 8th.
Okay. Certainly. Can you come up to the...
Frank Sylvia, one of your directors for the water company.
Welcome.
It's safe to assume, Mr. Chairman, members of council, that, and I'm only speaking for myself, I think that it's more important to spend millions of dollars to connect to the high service tank to get 4 million gallons in case there's an emergency, rather than do the meters. That's going to be my position on the tomorrow night's meeting. Just want to let you know that we're 3 votes out of 9, and whether or not we have enough of an argument to persuade the other members to listen to us, and maybe to go that way and not to encumber $4 million or whatever, we don't know exact cost for meters. So I just want to assure the council that I've listened to you, I feel exactly like you do, and my vote would be to, if we're going to spend millions of dollars, to do the connection to the high service tank and not to the meters.
Thank you.
So hearing that, Director Sylvia, you have a meeting tomorrow, and on your agenda would be going to the tank, that $4 million? No?
No. That we've already addressed that. We've initiated the engineering costs for that to start the process. What I'm saying, Councilman Stewart, is that I don't believe in investing $4 million for meters when there's an opportunity to invest $4 million on making sure that we have enough water on a daily basis. Okay? That's my feeling. Now, if you disagree and you want me to vote some other way, then...
No, I'm just trying to understand that if there was an intention of the other directors when there's a meeting, a workshop regarding the meters, and they would make a position tomorrow thinking that they're going to take a position on the meters, that's where I'm coming. I'm speculating. I think that would be very unjust.
Is that tomorrow, or is it October 6th?
October 6th is the workshop for the meters.
Oh, the meters are good.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a regular meeting.
But how we have feelings of what is spent towards meters and what is spent towards redundant water, and like you just made a very realistic statement of how people might stand tomorrow with their intent that they're already in support of the meters. I would have a hard time understanding that if they need more information to make that viable decision. So.
Well, you know as well as I do what happens in meetings, you know. So I'm just letting you know how I feel. If you want me to change my feeling, then I'm not, and you can get someone else. But that's the way I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. So, could we have a motion to continue this to our next meeting for an update on that?
Second.
This is second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from Councilman Stewart regarding the RIPTA bus boxes on Hope Street continued from September 7th.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Barbara Polichetti, Director of Public Affairs for the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority.
Welcome.
And we're here primarily tonight to give you some background and most importantly to answer your questions. And I have with me one of our principal planners, Greg Harris, and I think he'll be most useful. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Hi.
Welcome.
So as requested by the town, we spent some time...
Can you just put the microphone? Yeah.
As requested by the town, we spent some time reviewing the bus stops along Hope Street, specifically looking at the bus boxes. There's 4 of them. There's one at Hope and Constitution, there's 2 at Hope and State, and there's 1 at Hope and Franklin. So RIPTA buses are 40 feet long, and for a bus to fully curb, we actually need about 100 feet of empty curb space. What we primarily noticed is that, observing the bus stops and watching, how the buses were handling these particular bus stops, is that the 2 stops at the stops at Constitution and at Franklin, the buses were easily able to curb, and they did so every time I saw a bus go by. At State Street, they were not able to fully curb, and they kind of came in at an angle.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that the stops are only, the amount of curb space there's only about 50, maybe 60 feet. And with a 40-foot bus, they're not able to completely curb the whole vehicle. So from what I understand, that's been the town's primary concern at this point. And that's the reason that we noticed looking at it. You recall, a few years back, we did remove a couple of other stops. I think there was a pair of stops at Bradford and another pair at Church. Yeah. And that would actually worked out a little bit better for us because we've got better stop spacing now. Those stops they were a little bit too frequent. The buses were stopping, at very short distances. So that's actually worked out pretty well. But primarily the problem right now is the fact that the bus boxes as they are at State Street, they're really just not long enough for a bus to fully pull in. Our drivers are trained to, whenever possible, to fully pull the bus up to the curb. But like I said, in this instance, they're not able to.
So what would we have to do? Remove 1, 2 parking spaces? How many would it, just to give us an idea of what it would take to get the full pull-in?
If that's what you're really interested in, getting the bus fully to the curb and out of the lane of traffic, then yes, probably, well, we'd have to measure it out to be sure, but at least 1, possibly 2 parking spaces on each side.
2 additional to what's there currently, correct?
Right.
So I'm a realist, okay? And the reason why I brought this up again is after the assessment, after almost a year and a half to 2, we're on record for saying that if it's not working, we were going to reassess it. So all of us recognize that, especially the 2 spots you mentioned, that State Street and Hope on either parallel of Citizens Bank or Dunkin' Donuts on the easterly side, or the westerly side, the bus is sticking out and not going fully to the curb. And with the standards of the handicap ramp on the side of the bus was mentioned to us, so you need that ample space.
Right.
I guess the frustration lies is where we were told the bus drivers are trained to go into the box. My question is, why wasn't the box 100 feet to begin with when the project was submitted to us? And why wasn't it said it needs to be 100 feet for those buses to go in? As a town, we're here trying to add spaces. So I will be very against because we were concerned about traffic flow and why this is happening. You just answered that tonight. Those 2 spots, the buses cannot get into. But I won't be an advocate now that it's done, to take more spots away from the downtown area. My proposal was, when I was with Ed Tanner yesterday, after you had come down, is there ample enough room, if you're going to keep the tail end of the bus out, can we add 1 more space? And even with those dimensions, Ed had said that he had the conversations with you that it's not enough room for another car to, even if they pulled in that way. So basically, we're coming to a conclusion that if this council isn't willing to take parking spaces away to accommodate those spaces, and we also had ideas, we talked about this at length, of maybe position them in other places versus where they're at, but even to that point, the bus is positioned in intersections so the bus can take off. If we move the bus stops up, then we have to take spaces away, and I think the road gets narrower, and it's not more of a dimensional intersection where there's more visibility for the bus to take off. So my assessment in walking the route is basically what we have to deal with is the buses still just pulling in the way they are at those boxes unless we're willing to take spaces away. Would that be a fair assessment?
That seems fair to me.
Seems to me that, I mean, I agree that, when you all came and did the bus boxes originally, it should have been enough space to try that out and make sure it was going to work. I mean, this is the first that I think we've ever heard that it needed to be longer, that the boxes needed to be longer. It was always presented to us as a matter of training of the drivers, not being able to go in there. So, I mean, I live down here. I turn up State Street all the time. So, I mean, I've been behind that bus many, many times, and you can't get by. So, to me, it seems like, and I think this was our original point of asking you all to come down, is to gain at least another spot. And if the tail of the bus is going to stick out anyway, I can't see why we can't still gain another spot, because it is out more times than I've ever seen it in. And I mean, I've been waiting. I've been waiting to get to the corner so I can turn to come home. So, so I don't know why we couldn't get like at least one really compact car spot, if nothing else, out of that.
I know the chief's not here, Councilwoman, but what we noticed, I believe they noticed, is actually cars that go over the line. So is that correct? Even yesterday, one car was over the line, so even it's less of the room that I thought that was my whole point is even a compact. But when you take them pulling in with the middle door for the handicap ramp, they need that ample space, and when that tail end of the bus comes, it's just I guess the width of a car or the length of a car, there's a chance that the bus might hit it. So I just wanted to assess to see if that was feasible. And we got a new answer, as the councilwoman said. It's disappointing, but again, we're not going to give up spots. I know I'm only speaking for myself, but I think the feeling is from my colleagues that we need as many spots downtown as possible.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah,
is pretty much what you're saying. So.
Right. And I'm not here to ask for more spots. I just
Good.
wanted to point,
That'd be
point out that it wasn't designed correctly for those two specific spots, unfortunately, from the beginning. I wasn't involved with that project when it took place, so I'm not sure.
We've had wrong information. You've given us the right information. The options are either we remove more spaces or we leave it the way it is. And of the two, I think we're all in favor of leaving them as it is. So if you come up with a better solution, please understand that you are welcome at any one of our meetings to bring us better opportunities out there. So.
But I agree that we don't want to give up the additional parking spaces, because even if we did, it would take a pretty clever bus driver to tune in close to the longer space and straighten out and not block still some of the street. But I'd like to ask you a question. In all the bus stops in the cities and towns of Rhode Island, do you ever stop at the corner after the intersection rather than before it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Because I've always felt that it's much better to suffer blocking a cross street than it is to stick the rear end of the bus out and cause a stoppage of the main road, 114.
Yeah, in most cases, that absolutely would be preferable.
So what you could do, instead of stopping at the northbound, instead of stopping at the south side of State Street, you could stop at the north side of State Street and block State Street.
On the northbound direction, you're saying?
Yeah, but when you're heading north.
Yeah, but
when you're heading south, you could now stop at the south corner instead of the north corner and also block State Street, but not block Hope Street.
The reason why I specified, Councilman, is, number one, it gets narrower, and the crosswalk is actually at Dunkin' Donuts, so people wouldn't have a crosswalk when they get off the bus to go backwards. You would actually need more space doing it that way, because the bus will have to take off out of that narrow strip in that downtown area that we're speaking of, versus in an open intersection to the corner curb where the bus has more ample space. But the idea that we discussed in the past, and it was good, thoughtful ideas, is to do it that way. But going down there and seeing it and seeing how much space is needed doing it that way, I think it's going to require more, at least an additional parking space.
Well, with all respect, Eddie, I don't agree with that at all, because there's no reason why this bus heading south, instead of stopping in front of the Dunkin' Donuts, could stop in front of Rago's lower office. People could get off with a modification to the curbing so they're safe, and they'd wait a short time, the bus would leave, and then they could cross the street. It would be a very good plan, and I'd like to see us at least try this in one of our intersections for a period of a month or two and see how well it works.
So am I right, though, in saying that you need a parking space in front of the bus from when it stops, so the bus can take off?
Right, we need enough space for the bus to be able to pull back into the...
Yeah, you'd have to eliminate enough length there, but we're already eliminating a length equal to the whole length of the bus right now, and you wouldn't have to allow quite that much and still be able to turn out.
At the south side of State Street, we'd probably need 2 parking spaces.
Yeah, which is, and right now we're giving up 3 on the Dunkin' Donuts side.
Is it 3? Okay. It's 2.
So we ought to try this in one place as an attempt.
Let's just so we can kind of put a nice bow on this.
Okay.
Would you be willing to speak with Councilman Herreshoff or anyone else to spend that time? It sounds like you spent the time with Councilman Stewart to kind of. Sounds like you were willing to explore this. Would you be willing to explore that again, whether it's on the phone or face-to-face with whoever, including Councilman Herreshoff, to maybe walk through that again, and maybe either you make your point even that much clearer, or you have an epiphany and say, wow, we didn't think of it that way. Yeah, we'd be willing to look at that.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. More than welcome. I'd be more than happy to come out anytime. When I came out the last time, I brought one of our bus drivers with us, and he has some good insights on this. You know, he drives these every day. So, yeah, just...
Because it sounds like some of these questions have been answered, but it's very difficult to articulate those particulars. And Palsy, I hear you exactly what you're saying, but I think we're probably more familiar with Hope Street than you are.
Well, I would very much appreciate that opportunity, and I'd make myself available. And if you could come, and I think come with a bus driver would be good. Yeah. And Councilman Stewart and I, and you and the bus driver could go over this, and you get my contact from the town clerk, and I would make every effort to meet with you whenever it's convenient.
Because I think that would be a wonderful way to kind of take the next step on this.
And I'd just like to add that training, and make sure your bus drivers pull in as close as they can would be greatly appreciated. I obviously understand the situation we're in. So, because some of them don't even try, they just stop, you know, so.
But I've been behind buses in other communities, and I don't see the bus boxes working anywhere. I mean, they're all still sticking out no matter where I am.
So we've got new bus boxes now in Providence, on Elmwood Ave, on Broad Street, North Main Street. These are some of our busiest corridors. They were designed with enough length so that they can fully curb the bus. They are trained to fully curb whenever possible. If they're not doing it, then that is a training issue. Sometimes I know some drivers, if they're running behind schedule, they don't want to get out of the lane of traffic. They'd rather stay in it so they don't have to deal with merging back into traffic. I know that does happen. That's probably what you've seen. Yeah.
So, Councilman Herreshoff, do you think we could get together before the next council meeting, and then maybe we can come to a conclusion between the conversations, and then we can continue this for the next meeting?
I'm very happy to do that with you, Eddie, and just let's get together and do it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we continue to this next council meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next item is a request from Mosaico for a certain proposal. At a late hour today, I received a message that the agency wishes to withdraw the request.
Any action on that, Lou?
Receive and file.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I just comment, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
Diane, to this project, even though they're withdrawing, I would like just to go forward on some of the information from when there was the zone change and some of the buffering, especially Shaw's Lane, and the concerns of the residents, then maybe we can have some ongoing conversation internally with them, even though they withdrew this, to have the conversation going forward. Thank you.
I noticed that was absent in this proposal, and, I mean, that is an ongoing issue with the residents. So Shaw's Lane was never referenced in that.
This proposal was to modify the buffer on Wood Street. They are going forward with the buffer on Shaw's Lane. In fact, if you'll notice, we walked by there today, they've got the planting strip, they've paved the front parking lot, but they left the strip of dirt along the chain link fence on Shaw's Lane. They will be planting ivy. They've got commitments to purchase the ivy and have it planted. So that will happen, and that's in process now.
I just want to make sure that I know the front of Wood Street on that main corridor, they were willing to do that proposal, but we have to be cognizant of the residents on Shore Lane also, of things that were promised. Seems like, okay. Thank you.
I'll keep you updated on that.
So we have a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item I3. This is from the Director of Community Development regarding the Wally School lease proposal, Arts in Common. You have some representatives here to make a presentation.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello.
Doug?
Hi, my name is Doug Popovich. I'm the Communications and Outreach Team Leader for Arts in Common. I also have with me a few other people from our organization, Stephen Brigidi, who's in Education and Community Engagement, Craig Fisher, who's our Vice Chair, John Lusk, who I think you guys might know as well. He's our Facilities and Resource Management, the Shared Resources, and Marie Knappman, who is our Treasurer. So thank you for a quick moment. I know we're running on the late side. Did you all happen to get a backgrounder on what we are and what we do in your package?
Yes, we did.
Okay. We did. So
I would ask if you wouldn't mind 20-second for
Of course.
for the people that are, well, everybody here and at home.
Oh, and I also have little brochures if people wanted them.
Thank you.
So Arts in Common got together as a group last November. We were part of, all the people who are in it right now were part of the Future Search, or charrette, that talked about a potential arts cultural district out of the 50,000 contiguous square feet of schools that are up there. Just to let you guys know, for a weekend for 12 hours, almost 50 people spent 600 hours talking about what that might transform into. A few of us who created the organization came together after that and said, this is too good of a thing to pass up. Bristol needs the economic engine. We have 3 decommissioned schools who could all use some help. So for the last 10 months, we've been working. We're a 501c3 that was granted in August. And our goal is to do 2 things. One is, well, the larger thing is to create a 21st century commons. So to help reinvigorate those schools to be back into service of community from a physical standpoint. Also from a digital standpoint, we want to create a digital commons. Bristol in the area has about 16 or so arts organizations. They're all reinventing the wheel. They're spending a lot of time doing things. So a bunch of us got together and said, we can be supportive of that. So we're not an organization that's technically doing programming ourselves. We're partnering. We've met with 12 of those 16 already. We have a lot of people on board, and we have some letters of support that are going to a RISCA grant that's coming up. So in a quick nutshell, that was more than 20 seconds, and I apologize.
No, that was good, though.
What we're trying to do is go outside of the Bristol usual suspects, get funding to help us reinvigorate, at the very least, Wally. to get it back online for the community. We have the opportunity, the reason it's a little rushed is in the next 2 years, this year, next year, the RISCA Cultural Facilities Grant has $4 million available. We've spoken with Randall Rosenbaum a few times. He likes to think of our project, unquote, as a poster child. This area is underserved by those cultural grants. We have an application that's ready to go on October 1st for a $250,000 grant. We would have to match that, but I have a lot of other people in your backgrounders who's working to find the matching money and to basically do a phase one, which would allow at least a third of Wally School to come back online. Part of what we've done with the organization is that we're working very closely with the town as well as Roger Williams. And part of what we've discovered is they're interested in signing a long-term lease that helps them with a little classroom space that's connected to the community so that artists as well as some of their classes are more engaged. And they would do that at a revenue point that would help bring that school online and be sustainable. And one of the things we're really looking at doing is, can we help transform the building, give it back, but that it isn't a negative draw on any of the town monies. It's actually a revenue stream, while still in service to community education and things like that. So I think the request we have is to get an approval from you to work with Tony to talk about getting a 10-year lease and letting Arts in Common be the leaseholder. The reason we need that is because RISCA requires it for some of this grant and matching money. Now, we're only going for $250,000 this year. They're going to grant about $2 million, they say. And last year, I think there were 24 applications that came in, and they granted against 22 of them. So I think we have a very good chance. We have some people that are very supportive of it. And what we're hoping to do is, again, transform that and get that square footage back into use somewhat for the university to be able to help us pay for it, and then to help do what we call kind of like a softer cost associated with artists, community groups, things like that. Marie is in the Bristol Theater Company, and she'll never rent space at a commercial rate because she can't subsist that way. So what we're looking to do is keep that area very reasonably priced for softer costs, not put businesses in there, but look at artists or the creative economy workers that can help drive a better place to live and work here. So that's kind of our goal. We have some documentation, and we're excited about it. The people that are, the leadership of the 10 people that are involved, we've spent upwards of 2,000 or 3,000 hours already on it. None of us are being paid. We're just really interested in getting this online and back to the community. So we would love your support.
Diane, we spoke, you and I spoke about this, and the reason why we're talking about this tonight, we don't have a lease. We don't have very specifics in regards to maintenance about, there's dialogue about it, but it's light. But the goal here tonight is to have a memorandum of understanding that this council supports the overarching goals here, the basic principles, if you will. There's a lot more dialogue that would need to happen about the lease term. You mentioned 10 years. You and I had spoken, it was a 5 plus 5, which
I think is more accurate, but
okay. All right.
They want to see the 10 total,
which
before they
I know 5 and
give
5
a lot
is
of
10,
money.
but
Yeah.
I've been here a while. Thank you. So I know it's kind of the same thing, which is all right, but to that end, I know there's a lot of questions that need answers, but I can also, I'm in support of this. I think this is a wonderful use of the building because it needs it. It's an atrophied building. It's starting to really go the wrong way. Well, it's not starting. It is going the wrong way. So this is, and it's also very appropriate. There's questions that need answers. My colleagues and I have concerns about parking. We have concerns about how late it would be used, loitering. Loitering sounds like a bad thing, but just people hanging out afterwards, right? So a lot of questions that need answers. This is not selling the building. We can't sell the building. We don't want to sell the building. But we need a lot of answers, and you sound more than willing to give us those answers. Myself, from what has been proposed to us, I'm in support of this to take the next step. Obviously, we all need a lot more information, but from what we have right now, I think it makes sense.
I'm also in support of going to the next step with this. This building's been dark for 20-something years, I think, and you guys have the light to be able to make these doors open, and I think for the better. So what do we have to lose? I just had a question in regards to the grant. Why only can you go out for more, or?
We would have had to have done a letter of intent for a larger amount as of August 1st, and we weren't quite prepared. There were a lot of,
Okay.
I mean, I think we've been flying the plane and building it at the same time, and what we didn't want to do was to go after a much bigger nut with an unproven organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so strategically, we looked at it. I would have loved to have gone for $600,000 or $700,000.
Right.
But what we thought was, let's go with this. We're going to say this is phase 1, where there's a phase 2. We're going to apply next year for a much bigger nut. But our goal is to get this approved, get it the right way, get the money, and by September of next year, have 6,000 square feet available for Roger Williams to start to use so that we have a revenue stream.
It's a piece. It's a nice.
And then we'll do phase 2, finish the rest of it. And again, we're dedicated to find the matching money. And if we can't find it through other grants or loans, grants or agencies, we're also willing, we're establishing the board to go and with a 10-year lease perspective from Roger Williams, we'll borrow it. So again, what's really interesting, we've worked a lot with Diane, with Tony. We're interested in just doing it the right way, looking at the numbers, making sure it's sustainable, and then moving forward. And as soon as it can be generating some revenue back, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And, I think I'll quickly say for parking and whatnot, the two buildings that are there now, Byfield and Reynolds, have organically added artists, wellness, things like that. We've started to chat about, all those schools had staff parking available for them, and it's kind of willy-nilly right now, and so maybe we'll start to look at, maybe those individuals in those schools have set spaces so that they're not parking on street, so that it's easier for residents or easier for people who want to come to the Commons. So we're very cognizant about being good neighbors there, and we're just hopeful that, again, if we don't get a grant, we've spent the time and we're going to look elsewhere, because we still feel like a year from now it's going to be in worse shape, and we want to have lights on rather than having it be dark.
Well, I agree that I think you've got a very commendable idea. The artist segment of Bristol is strong, as you say, and if this could be done and accommodate them, it'd be great. And I think you're going about it in a very responsible and constructive and careful way, which you should be doing. I just like to make two comments. One is, I certainly hope there's not a proposal to encroach more on the Common with additional parking, because the Common is sacred to this town, and we've already reached into it too much for parking and basketball and so forth, so we don't want to lose any more Common. The other thing that leaves me a little questionary is that, as you may know, we're under the gun of waiting a Supreme Court decision as to whether or not the town of Warren is going to be permitted to raid the town of Bristol unfairly in the financing of the schools. If we were unfortunate to lose that case, many Bristolians, including myself, will propose that we separate from Warren and go back to having a Bristol High School instead of a Bristol Warren School. Mm-hmm. And if we did that, the question is, and I think we need to ask this question of the school superintendent, in that event, would we need Worley School or not? And I will ask that question because I think that needs to be one of the inputs to the timing of this project.
I agree, and I wrote that down too, so we're on the same page.
And I think that's a great point, and I wonder if we can also explore some kind of consideration, and we can reach out to RISCA to say, how tenable is that? Like, do we have to have the master lease? And one of the things we also might look at is, well, if we do say phase 1, and then something comes up, could it be shared space? Because the other side is, right now, it's not accessible. It needs remediation on asbestos. It needs an elevator for accessibility to other floors. It needs a ramp. And those are all in line with our Phase 1. So maybe one of the things, I think the key there is, will RISCA give up the money if you guys need to pull it back? And I don't have an answer to that.
Well, I would think that, I mean, a couple of things. On that particular point, when we've heard about space for the schools for one reason or another, that has been at the bottom of the list because of the situation that's in, the size, and Byfield and Reynolds are a much higher priority and much higher on the list. Now, if we were on our own, would we need that space as well? I really don't know. But, I think it's great if you can get the RISCA grant. I didn't realize they had this particular fund. I know they have the education fund and others. So it'd be great to be able to get, potentially $500,000 or more to go towards this issue and to do the renovations or start them that need to be done. I will say, full disclosure, I am a resident in that area. And so parking is a serious issue, very serious. And you're often feeling like you're hostage in your home because things are going on. You'll never get parking if you go out. And I know it sounds funny. It's not funny.
No. I moved here. The reason I left, I moved here from Brooklyn.
Right.
And 2.5 hours
this is nothing
to get
like
a
that,
parking
right?
space. I hear you.
This is nothing like that. I understand that, but this is our reality, right?
No.
And the other is, I noticed throughout this, you talk a lot about partnerships, but I don't see anything about neighborhood input. And growing up in that area, there was maybe a lot more owner-occupied houses, but there still are a fair number. And even those who live in apartments, it is a neighborhood. It doesn't seem like it because it's divided up with lots of schools and other types of buildings and spaces, but I didn't see that in here. Those are my only two comments. And as we go forward, none of it has to be addressed right now, but, we don't know what the lease is. Obviously, you have laid out a lot of terms, but we haven't gotten anything back from our solicitor, so obviously there's many questions that go on. But, if you can get that funding, that would be a good start, that's for sure.
We just didn't want to let the opportunity go by, you know. And the other thing I'd mention is we did have a community meeting. The original people involved in the charrette, the 45 people, when we formed the organization, we had a community meeting with them, and we have a growing network. Part of, I think, and it's in our mention there, of business networking, community networking, and artist networking, because we feel like it only works if this kind of digital platform can connect everybody and make it easier to communicate. So it's top of our mind that it is much more of a service than it is about, let's fill up every room there. The other thing that I was thinking was the fact that because Roger Williams would be, renting the space, the buses would bring the majority of students associated with that. It's not easy for them to get, to back and forth. These would be more specific classrooms at times. So
the bus already runs along High Street.
Exactly.
I'm aware of that.
Well, that's what we're saying is our hope is that it's not students in the class. It might be a person in charge of that or an instructor perhaps. But we're going to keep an eye on it because it's a really good point.
Now, would Roger Williams still be continuing to do they still use space at Reynolds?
Yes, and in fact, I think
they would be adding space.
They're opening up the Clay studio.
Pardon me?
Yeah. They're opening up the Clay studio tomorrow at Reynolds, I believe, and so that's an interesting thing as well. So they're not taking over; they're just helping us move forward. I think, at least with Wally, especially. They're on board. We have a letter from the president. We also have letters of support for the RISCA grant from Blythewald, from a lot of the other organizations we spoke to, the Historical Society, understanding that we want to keep the outside right, we want to do the inside in a good way, and get it back to you in 10 years or less. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Arts and the Common to go out for the RISCA grant with my colleagues.
I'll second for discussion. Sure. Just to add that I'm in support, obviously seconding it, but thank you for your time. And you said a key word, part of your proposal that's nice to hear is sustainability. And you could tell by your presentation the amount of work and effort you put into this going forward, and the work of even the comment you made, well, if it's not this, we are going forward. And it would be nice and cohesive to have that partnership. It's been talked about at these workshops of an arts district in Bristol that everybody has a heart for, that is coming together. So, and this is a town building that's not going anywhere, and it's in need of repairs. I'm just more about specifics myself. I'm more about the lease agreement, the concept and all the hard work and the organizational I'm a big support of, but the lease agreement itself or the subleases is, and the liabilities is probably more my concern.
Well, and I feel it only works if it works for everybody, right? So we understand that. Now, the one thing I think we do need, if at all possible, would be a letter from the council that states what you voted on tonight so that we can put it in our application, which is due Friday. I know that's a lot to ask, but I think that would go a long way to appeasing them and taking a very serious look at granting us the money.
Lou, that's...
I guess my question is, how far do you want that letter to go? I mean, is it, I hear this as you're approving that the application can go forward. Is it,
I think you can say that we intend to, do a lease work out the terms of a lease.
It would be contingent on that.
Yeah. Contingent on the grant.
Yeah.
What is the language that they would accept?
Well,
what I think the risk of people...
Before you go any further, could you state your name?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Craig Fisher.
Thank you.
What the RISCA people are looking for is a letter of understanding that demonstrates a commitment on the part of the town council to lease the building to Arts and Common for a period of 10 years.
10 years.
And that the particulars of the lease will be worked out in the course of the next, couple of months as we get further into the project. But generally, we need a firm commitment that we will be able to demonstrate that we'll have a lease term of at least 10 years in order to make the grant money available.
So it's definitely 10 years. It would have to be...
It is 10 years, in part because we will also be looking to serve Roger Williams, who's taking 1/3 of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And part of our ability to sort of leverage the financing for the completion of even the first phase is to have a period of 10 years. So we've actually spoken to private banking institutions about that. So it's a combination of what risk is requiring from us in combination with how we're going to be able to finance the construction for phase one. And then, as Doug said, once the initial phase has moved forward, and we have Roger Williams as an occupant paying rent, we will move forward with the second application with RISCA to get a substantially larger grant and be able to finish the entire project in terms of the additional 2 floors and get full occupancy in the existing Wiley School. And in the course of doing that, I think we've indicated with our letter of intent to you that we'll get to a point where the cash flow that's generated with the completed project will allow us to take over a lot of the ongoing sort of maintenance requirements for the building, and ultimately, develop a relationship with the town where there's income sharing.
Lou, do you need me to amend my original motion to include the 10 years, or no?
Yeah, you would have to.
All right.
So does RISCA have a reputation of continuing this in year two? In other words, if you get the funding for the first year, is there kind of an unwritten history? I mean, nobody's going to commit outright.
Right.
But that, in most cases, they refund you again the second year?
We were greeted with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. So they, in fact, encouraged us to do the advanced application for a much larger initial grant. And we, because of the timing of when we received our nonprofit status, a lot of organizational things that we were still working on, we were just unable to arrive at a point where we felt comfortable moving forward with that. So, we've gotten very favorable feedback with our initial meetings, and they've already started to use our anticipated proposal as a sort of model going forward for other communities.
Can I just ask one last other question, and that is, so you're looking to have the lease, whether you get this grant or not, or if you don't get the grant,
well,
there wouldn't need to be a lease.
The grant will definitely make
everything.
the process for us much easier.
Right.
Yeah.
But Roger Williams is committed to our organization in terms of being sort of the bridge to allow them to take the 1/3 of the Y School building. And we would be interested in looking at alternative financing opportunities.
Now, why doesn't Roger Williams take it on themselves?
Pardon me?
Why doesn't Roger Williams just take it on themselves if they're looking for that space?
Because they really sort of look at this in terms of the opportunity for their students that will be using their area of studio space and classroom space as an opportunity to interface with the arts community as a whole. So their interest is engaging the Bristol community, providing access to a lot of their facilities. For instance, their new ceramic studio is intended to be open to use to the Bristol public.
Nice.
So that ceramicists who want to use their facility, which is very impressive, will have an opportunity to use it. And they have 3 or 4 professional kilns that are in place now.
So for clarity, we need a letter that says we have a 5 plus 5 year lease. Just really, that's what we're looking for, a total of 10 years, so 5 with a review in 5 years is what 5 is what we're saying here, correct? Because that's what am I missing something on that?
I think that our circumstances would be better served, and the likelihood that our application is going to be viewed more favorably is a straight-out 10-year term. And that in the course of, there is a 2-month waiting period before we will hear back about the RISCA grant. During that period of 2 months, we would work with you all to finalize all of the terms of the lease agreement, as well as engaging Roger Williams with their lease agreement. And we can sort of, tie up any of the, additional particulars that need to be addressed.
And I think if during that 2 month, if you were to agree to this evening, the 10 years, if we could not agree on terms, what would happen is the lease wouldn't be signed, and then they would not get the grant.
Okay.
That's exactly
That's what's going to happen. So if we can't agree on terms, that's the bottom line is you won't get the grant, but we won't be in the lease.
Okay.
Well, that's a very important point, to make things a little safe at this point.
Yeah, that was my question of the one topic that it's almost like, because we said we have to go over the lease, but it's that 10-year that actually has to be agreed upon tonight.
Right. The 10-year term would be agreed upon tonight, yes, but if we can't agree to all the other terms inside of that, we don't have to sign the lease.
Right.
So the motion should probably include that proviso.
Right. So
Yeah, it would be contingent upon the two parties reaching terms on the 10-year lease.
Well, under
So
that
moved.
Well, we made a way to
consideration,
put that, like, where it sounds not as ominous.
Yeah.
Terms to be determined or something with...
Yeah, terms to be determined.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly. I'll work with Lou.
Yeah, what's in the motion and what's in the letter may be two different things, but
We understand.
I'll amend my motion to include the 10 years, so make a motion to approve the Arts in the Common, to approve the Arts in the Common, to go out for the Arista grant, approval for the Arista grant for a 10-year lease term.
And I would go a little further, the 10-year lease upon terms to be agreed upon.
Upon
between the
terms to
parties.
agreed upon.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? I'll say this, there's certainly a lot of work.
Yeah.
It seems very positive, so we'll end on a very positive here, is that we would not support this if we didn't see that there was great light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm sure that we can come to terms that work for everyone. So we have a motion and a second to support and approve and all the others that went along with that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, listen, we certainly appreciate...
Great job, you guys.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Excellent.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I-4. This is from the Community Development Director regarding the hazard mitigation plan for 2016.
This is heady stuff, Diane, at a late hour. So.
I know, but all the hard work has been done. So really, all I need tonight is a motion to adopt.
And that will be my motion, is to adopt the hazard mitigation plan of 2016. But just 5 seconds, Diane is correct, of how important this plan is for our comprehensive plan going forward on all levels of our town, whether it's to do with flooding or drainage or anything. So that's all I'm going to say.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item is from the Bond Council regarding refunding bond resolutions, item I-5.
Julie, this is, you know what, this is a great place to be a very positive, too. Where that hard work was done here, too, that is, go ahead, you
Yes,
do the rest.
I was very excited about this opportunity. This is our refunding of our 2009 bonds that's going to generate savings of about $800,000 over the remaining life of the bonds. So-
Could you say it again, Julie?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Savings of about $800,000.
We love money, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
so
That's
it's a really great opportunity for us. And we played around a little bit with the structure of the savings, and we were able to front-load the savings, so we're looking at about $400,000 in this fiscal year, which will greatly help offset our $1 million that we had to appropriate from our fund balance.
Wonderful.
So I was
man.
really excited about that.
So I'm so ecstatic with that news that I want to approve the refunding resolution.
Do you need council
Thank you.
approval?
Thank you.
I would move that we approve the...
Halsey can do that? I heard a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Please, nobody opposed, right?
No.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, nice job.
The next item is I-6 from Councilman Sweeney regarding possibility of having four-way stop signs and further speed considerations on High Street.
Quick and easy, just coming up from High from Lobster Potters, you take a right and you hit Wally Street and Burton Street. There's two-way, a lot of speeding. I've heard from a lot of residents. So what I'd like to do is just turn this over to the chief to do a study on it. Apparently there was a study done, but the residents were saying it wasn't done when the college students were there. So I was just wondering if I could refer it to you to take a look at, and maybe do some monitoring to find out what's going on. But they're saying there's a lot of speeding that's happening over there.
Absolutely. We'd be more than glad to look into it, and we'll report back the findings through the town administrator's office.
Fantastic.
I'd just like to say that I guess I'm biased because I drive that all the time.
Very quickly.
It's quite a pain coming down High Street from way uptown to get down there because there are already a lot of four-way stops. And now particularly this intersection of High with Wally, on the left side as you go north, that's a one-way street where only exiting is possible and no left turn entrance is not possible anyway. And admittedly, it is both ways on the other side, so I'm not in favor of that one. And then I'm glad you didn't mention Burnside Street, and I don't see why we need to have a four-way stop at Britton Street. So I hope that there'll be representation in the study in the fact that some of us consider it a nuisance to have to stop everywhere.
Sure. Well, let's see what the study comes back with.
So Halsey, I'm going to take that as a second, because I heard Tim had that motion, so I heard a second from
Great.
Halsey.
I guess we can call it that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next item is from the Chief Engineering Management Branch, Federal Insurance and Mitigation Administration regarding special flood hazard determination at 45 Shore Road.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
Next item is from the Administrator regarding the Substance Abuse Task Force Grant Award.
Does this require any match from the town?
No, actually, no, it does not. It's a 5-year grant, so it's $125,000 for each of the 5 years.
With no match?
With no match. But I'll let Anne-Marie Roy actually explain a little bit more on that.
Welcome.
Good
That's
evening.
phenomenal.
Good evening. Anne-Marie Roy from the Prevention Coalition. No cash match, only in kind. We wrote the grant that way so the town wouldn't have to do any cash match.
Excellent job. Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's a 5-year grant, $125,000 a year for 5 years, renewable for a second 5 years.
$625,000.
Right, but it can be renewed for a second 5 years, so double the 625.
$1,003,000.
You got it, Halsey, you're good. Yeah. So we're excited. Maria and I have been working on this for about 3 years, and this finally came through, so we're very excited about this.
Tell us what this means. What does this allow you to do that you couldn't do prior to that?
What does it allow us to do? Well, the grant basically is going to, it's geared more towards middle school and high school students. It's going to strengthen collaboration among the community and reduce substance abuse use among youth. The drug-free grant award through the GFC program are intended to support established community-based coalitions capable of affecting community-level change. Let me say the DFC grant will be.
What are your specific activities that you wrote into that grant that you plan to do? I mean, like a specific thing. that you do.
Curriculums in the middle school, high school, for the students.
So this will fund those curriculums?
Substance abuse for curriculums in the middle school and the high school. Training the health teachers in both schools. Media campaigns for students. Social norms campaigns.
Does it go beyond substance abuse and do social and emotional, as well? It's all part and parcel and the same, right?
Go ahead.
Well, again, no, we have an action plan. We did our first year, so we're going to, revisit that to make sure what we have lined up. We did write this grant at the beginning of the year, so we're going to revisit, see where we're at with other granting that we're working through the HES program. So we will change our action plan a little bit, and obviously we don't have a full set of plan for the next 4 years, so we can update you on that quarterly and let you know what's going on, and obviously, we can report to you and let you know. So we're just excited at this moment. This grant will be in effect as October 1st, so there's still a lot that we need to work with Julie and our town administrator, in regards to all the particulars, but the town of Bristol, we were fortunate enough to receive it, and another community that received it in the state was Central Falls, so we'll also be working with them, obviously, as another partner.
Well, congratulations, this is great.
You.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
Yes, and thank you so much for the support.
Of course.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from the Administrator's Office regarding updates on certain projects.
Sir?
Okay, that's okay.
Looking at the forms, yeah.
Well, the first item there's obviously a few items. One of them is the road paving program, but I would defer that to Director McBride. And as you may have seen, all the reports that you received from all the directors, that is one of the pieces of information that's there, but I think it will be a good idea if Director will highlight some of those things for our viewers in addition to the report.
Okay, real quickly, pretty much have quite a few roads under construction right now. The contractor finished up Creek Lane today, paving, final paving,
Yeah.
that one's done. We expect Shamrock Court to be paved, if not tomorrow, the day after, so that should be finished. Right now that we have Magnolia and Buttonwood underway. I'm hoping to get a binder down on hoping to get Magnolia ripped up by the end of the week and a binder down by Tuesday, and then they'll start on Franklin, heading easterly towards Metacom Avenue, that segment from Buttonwood to Metacom. The big one that's going on is the Sullivan, Tobin, Ferncliff estates. National Grid is in there right now. Contractor has put all the conduit in, and National Grid has pulled the cable on Tobin. They should be out of there today or tomorrow. And I expect our contractor to start ripping that Tobin up, Tobin, Karen, and Lucretia up to put new pavement down. Sullivan will be another couple of weeks because they're still pulling cable for the primary power in the whole subdivision. So that will be wrapped up, I would anticipate by the end of October, probably the early part of November. Those are what are going on right now. The other big piece is that on Gibson, as many people know, the Gibson Road area, a lot of the roads in there had been upgraded with National Grid gas. You'll see a lot of the trenches, and Gibson was the worst of the roads in that area. We had hoped to get all of those roads paved this fall. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if you look at it from the positive perspective, in coordination with Bristol County Water Authority, they want to upgrade their water main on Gibson Road from Hope Street 2,800 feet westerly. So their plan is to go to construction in early spring, as soon as the weather breaks, to start installing that main, similar to what they did on Metacom Avenue. They have to run a service main on the surface, convert everybody over, and then excavate the new main in. So we've pushed off redoing the Gibson Road and those finger streets off of Gibson in that area until next summer, once Bristol County gets their end of the utility upgrade completed. I know it's frustrating for the neighbors in there, but hopefully with this coordination between Grid and Bristol County Water, we'll actually have roads that nobody will touch for a few years. And Gibson, as you all know, is the worst of the worst in that area. So hopefully we'll get that done around the July timeframe next year is what I'm really hoping and pushing for. Again, I think it was mentioned earlier about the bond referendum going forward. Part of that bond is for road, sidewalks, improvements going forward. And we've built a 3-year plan now that we'd execute going forward if that bond is approved. So I think that's a quick one over the world as to where we are, but there's a lot going on. And rest assured, we're hoping to tighten everything up before winter settles in.
So a 3-year plan for all the streets in town and just...
No, it will take about 20 years to do all of the streets in town. But the 3-year plan that we built is based on the study that was done a few years ago, based on the worst roads in town, and we try to plug those in. I've stuck to a 3-year plan. Some people would like to see a 5 or a 10-year plan. The problem with that is every winter there are things that occur during the winter that take one road from maybe a fair condition into a poor condition. So I hate to lose the flexibility to add roads into the program if we go too far out and then everybody gets excited about their road being done and then I have to pull a road off because something happened. I think a 3-year program is a good program to work from. It gives us vision into the future, but it also allows us the flexibility to stay on top of anything that occurs in the short term.
Will you revise that 3-year program every year to include 3 years?
As soon as these roads are done, I'm going to build the next out year
I was just going to suggest,
2019 will be put on top.
at the end of October and November, we're going to have another meeting for 2017, once these roads are done at the end of the season. It's in your report, and we have to come up with a date. But to the director's point of, the bond referendum once more, is the infrastructure of the town of Bristol going forward. We just passed the hazard mitigation plan. We had meetings of the stormwater utility, and especially the infrastructure of BCWA with their water lines, National Grid, and our sewage with wastewater treatment. The infrastructure of Bristol, we have so much going on, we say it time and time again. We have to keep this program going with our roads and drainage, because that's the only way we're going to be a strong town going forward when we do all these projects on top of that. So I was going to mention that in your report, but we need to schedule a meeting going forward for the next year.
I've already got a good idea what will be on the 2019 list.
Well, this is overall a very good DPW report, and we appreciate it very much from you. It shows a lot of good work going on. But I do have one suggestion, which really is a request. I like the Part 2, Future Goals and Objectives, and I'd like to request that you add to that a written resolve to keep clean and neat the business sections of Bristol, so that the partial improvement that's been made in your new sidewalk vacuuming machine and other activities can be a part of our game plan to have the written resolve to keep those places clean and neat.
Been trying to hit that weekly as we go forward. In fact, been trying to hit it, and it's all weather dependent to utilize the machine, but we try to hit it before the weekend so that we have a good downtown business district.
Weekly is a lot improvement, but maybe daily would be even better. But anyway, I think it'd be good to have it written down as a resolve to do that, so that it's not just up in the air.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director McBride. The next item would be the Energy Savings Program, and as we know, things are moving along to the LED piece, and many of our residents will be seeing lights being installed sooner than later for the LED, which is something we've been pushing all along. And it's going to be a great savings in addition to improve the lighting conditions around town. The website was one of the items that was brought up at the last meeting. The committee was formed. We met on September the 16th. There's been a few changes that have been made on the website already. And as I pointed out, the objectives was to improve the use, make adjustments, and generate internal resourcefulness to supporting department webpage monitors. And that is being done. Actually, what's going to happen is there's two of our employees that have stepped forward. One of them was Gary Marshall. Thank you. Gary Marshall blanked for a minute there. He's going to work with all department heads to do all the vouchers. The voucher system will be done through one of the facilities that we have through the website. In addition to that, Jessica Flammer, here she is, she has also volunteered to work with all the departments. They have fillable forms that can be loaded up online, on the website, to be done as well for each one of the departments. So those are the items. Also, the calendar of events, it's being coordinated. That information should be sent to Cheryl in my office, and she'll be responsible to do that, to upload all the information to the calendar. So we're moving along there, but we'll certainly take any suggestions, anything else that you find along the way. We're also doing a peer review, which is ask departments to check each other's web page, and then come back and say, okay, if I was looking for this as one of our residents, what would be some of the obstacles that I would run into, and how could we improve those as well? So we're moving along along those lines. But certainly, if any of you have any suggestions, anything else that can assist and improve, please let us know. Code Red and town website notifications. I know we've started this about almost a year ago, Code Red. And as many of you already get messages, either on your phone, either via text, emails, or phone call, we need to encourage our residents to, and we'll be doing a little more PR on this piece, because it is important, especially with the weather. We have to remember there's two pieces here, Code Red versus the website alerts. Some folks think, well, Code Red is used for anything and everything. No, they'll be strictly for emergencies of safety or security. That's what those Code Red would be used for, and it's not only for the town, but it's also statewide. The website alerts would be obviously for the town, such as the parking ban, or if there is something such as of the things that we do right now around town, the construction. If there was something that we needed to alert our residents that posed some hazard or a safety concern, then we would put that as an alert.
Tony, can I ask
So
you
I would, yes.
a question about that? And maybe you don't know the answer on the Code Red. I'm not sure what it was. I know he signed up for Code Red, so I assume it was that, but I don't know if anybody else has noticed this. Like, one night, I got 5 alerts because of the same thunderstorm.
It was a big
And then-
thunderstorm.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't even think we had it that much here. And then another night, I
get
mean...
the same thing. That's
Yeah.
fine, so.
And then another night, I mean, honest to God, I didn't realize what it was. It woke me up in the middle of the night, the phone ringing, and I didn't get to it in time, and I saw emergency alert, and I was thinking the dialer. And, and like, I was freaked. I mean, I flew next door pretty quick, And so I just am curious. I was thinking about it myself. Should I just get off of it? Because, I don't need to know every single thunderstorm that's coming up. I don't need to be dialed like 5 times about
Right.
the same storm in an evening,
Well, we don't have control over that. That's a
Right,
state
right,
run.
right.
So for that matter, I mean, how do you prefer to be contacted? If you put your home phone, your
Right,
cell
right,
phone,
right. I did,
your
I did,
email,
yeah.
all of that, let me tell you, you will get as
Right.
many messages
Right.
as the ways that you've selected to be
Are
informed.
we already automatically, if you sign up for Code Red on the town's website, or have to sign up separately?
No, it's the same. Well, the town's website,
I mean,
when
the
you sign
town-
up for
the
Code
town
Red,
alerts, the
is
town
the
alerts.
state.
Right.
Okay. Although we could use it here in town if we needed to. If
Right.
there's 4 of us that designated to
Right.
be to use it, there'll be Police Chief Canario, Chief DeMello, myself, and Director of Public Works.
But I mean,
The
the
4 of
town-
us could, but obviously would have to be in conference, but unless one of us was absent
Right,
from
right,
town,
right,
then
right,
the others would act on behalf.
But I mean, I'm saying, so the parking bans, do we have to sign up separately for the town website
That with the
notification?
website alert, yes.
So we have to go to the website and get an alert
Correct.
from there? Okay.
Yes.
All right, got that.
And that's a very good point. That's a nice point of clarification, is that we got to understand if there's something happening in town, that would be through the website alert. If it's an emergency that's statewide, then it would be through Code Red. Okay.
And Tony, I just think also you guys should look at the social media as far as like those alerts as well, because a lot of people are using Facebook or, and it's a good way to get the notice out as well if it's easier, if the system can just do that as well.
Actually, through Facebook, the police department has done a very good job actually sending out that message. They do that. Rather than create more conflict, they already doing a great job, so we allow them to continue just to go through the police department.
Okay.
The byfield, if you have not seen it, eventually or very soon, you're going to see staging around the entire building because the gutters will be done, as well as the downspouts. They're going to be replaced. So that work is to be done very soon. We're also going to take advantage while the staging is up to do some pointing work, as well painting.
That's great.
It's about $30,000, between $30,000 to $35,000 just for the staging. So we're going to leverage our dollars and do as much as we can while we have the staging up. The firefighters tax exemption, I think it's very important for us to to update this, and the committee met and gathered information from the tax assessor, Chris Belleo, Fire Chief DeMello, and other communities that have similar programs that are being proposed. And once we have additional information, there'll be coming a recommendation to, information will be forwarded to the council for your review and recommendations as to how you want to proceed with that. But just to give you a heads up on that it was not forgotten. We are been very active with that information.
I didn't forget, I also at that meeting said I'm kind of investigating the elderly homestead tax exemption in comparison to other communities that have that also. So that's something to consider in tandem with that. So.
Okay. And then the sidewalk butlers, some of you may have seen it, excuse me, we didn't put bird houses up, where those are actually cigarette butts. I know some folks initially thought, oh, okay, we have put little bird houses up, but it's not. Those actually, and they've been actually used quite a bit already. I know Ed, I had offered to go with Ed and collect, from all of them one of the Saturdays, just to see the amount that's been collected of cigarette butts, but certainly people have made use of them, and hopefully they'll continue to prevent many of those to end up in our bay, in our beautiful bay, that folks have done great work to keep it clean, and we'd like to continue to do that. So just a couple more items. You've already heard about the grant for the $125,000. There is also another one that's a federal grant. No match, again. This was written by Chief DeMello. It was a quick one, but he did a great job. He put it out together. He put it together, and we received $56,000. No match for cybersecurity. Okay. And that's going to be work that will be done between the police and fire department. So it's $56,000. I've already signed off for us to receive that check.
Good, excellent.
So he did a great job. So kudos goes to Chief DeMello for that, but the collaboration from the police department as well. And in addition to that, we have some other good news. We got a grant for the Loafers Corner that all of you are familiar, and for the folks out there, it's the corner of State and Hope Street by Dunkin' Donuts. We received a grant of $23,440, and that, I believe that's an 80-20 match. Am I correct in that? So we received that, and also have a pending grant for $400 for the boardwalks, and that is pending, obviously, and a big bond that's borne out by the state. Walter may want to make a pitch there. I know he's quite a cheerleader for that one because it's open space recreation and all of that. So
yeah, the $400,000 is an 80-20 match.
So we have to put in $100,000?
It's an 80-20 match.
So that'd be $100,000 from the town?
$400,000. And there's a $35 million bond referendum on the state ballot that usually typically gets 70% of the vote. It passes pretty often. I'm on the committee to promote the passage of this bond. These bonds have really made a tremendous impact in the town of Bristol. Silver Creek restoration, a lot of the work there was done, a lot of the work at the town beach. The list goes on and on with the benefits. So if this bond passes in November, the next day we get the $400,000 for the boardwalk, and the boardwalk is to connect Rockwell Boardwalk around, out past the fire station around the Azevedo property and connect it to State Street Dock. So that will really complete the connection that Diane and I have dreamed of for years.
Will there be enough there to also replace some of the planking that's going bad?
Yeah. Okay. That money will be able to be stretched out as far as it'll go.
Well, Walter, with you promoting this bond issue, it'll probably pass.
Yeah, and then the other part of it is that the day after the bond passes, we use the money, but then when the grant round comes, we can apply for another grant under that. There were 100 grants proposed to the state, and 26 communities received a grant. We potentially now will receive 2 of those grants, so our track record is really great. So.
Thank you.
And that question is number 6.
Number 6.
This is the commercial. You got to say number 6.
It's the Green Economy Bond.
I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
I like this. I like these updates. That's good.
Can I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is from the Economic Development Coordinator regarding the Bristol Tourism Partnership update.
Welcome, Jessica.
Good evening.
Good evening.
everyone. How are you all today?
Good.
Good. I'm going to keep this as brief as possible.
That's a great idea.
You all received a memo from me in your packets about an update on the Bristol Tourism Partnership. So what I'm going to do is kind of hit the high points here, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. So since that June 2nd workshop where we got all of our tourism groups together, the BMA, Explore Bristol, Discover Newport, and the East Bay Chamber of Commerce, Diane and I formed a committee with a couple of members from each of those groups to get together, and we've met 5 times since that meeting, really focusing to try and build consensus between all the groups and the town on the main funding priorities for tourism in Bristol. The 3 main themes that were identified through these meetings are the Explore Bristol website, the Lou Hammond Group promotion of Bristol, and the BMA with their events and extending the season. A couple of things that have come out of this: the Explore Bristol website is slated for a revamp to be updated and be more responsive for mobile devices. We discussed the difference between a mobile app and a responsive design website. Some tourism professionals from Discover Newport informed us that apps are kind of maybe on their way out, and a responsive website would be better for the resources. So that is going to be happening through CC Inspire, who currently hosts the website. They'll be working on a 6 to 8 week update to make that website more responsive.
But Jessica, as long as that app would conform to the actual mobile device, it's going to size itself correctly.
Correct. So that's the
Whether
whole
it's an
point.
Android
That's
tablet.
the whole point of making a website responsive, is if you're on a cell phone or a tablet, the information will be easy to view. The next item is the Lou Hammond promotion of Bristol, and this one took quite a bit of meeting and going over, but it was agreed that this initiative has brought a lot of business, a lot of tourism to Bristol, and we've agreed to continue for $10,000 through the end of 2016 with a set aside of $3,000 for a spring initiative on that. We've begun even better communication with the Lou Hammond Group. Diane and I are now copied on pretty much every communication that comes through from Lou Hammond. For example, one thing that came through last week, they were looking for pitches for fall apple dishes, and the Statesman Tavern was actually included on USA Today. I think there were 50 dishes that were featured, and the Statesman was within the top 10 on there. I don't think there was any rating, but I noticed that they were pretty early on, which was awesome to see. And I know they're working on a Best of Rhode Island for Yankee Magazine, and they've reached out to the Bristol Harbor Inn to talk about the updates that they've been doing over there and how the new management is handling everything. So there's a lot of movement on that, and we're happy to see more communication from them. And the last item is the BMA events, really trying to focus on, we've got a great summer season, how do we extend the season in the spring and the fall? So we're working with the East Bay Chamber and Discover Newport to explore what other chambers of commerce do, what other tourism organizations do in the Northeast, and how can we take some of the events that we've got like Harbor Festival, the Harvest Festival, that kind of thing, and really kind of beef them up and make them longer and make them bigger events. A few things that have come out of the Tourism Council partnership meetings is the East Bay Chamber and Discover Newport are partnering with the East Bay newspapers to update the Explore Bristol brochure. Discover Newport offered to take that on, take the pressure off the town for its resources. Discover Newport will take that on, provided that it's a more regional tourism piece. It will include the towns of Barrington and Warren also, which Discover Newport also covers. So they're working with East Bay newspapers. They actually had a meeting yesterday to talk about how that will look going forward. So when they meet and provide a better plan for that, I'll have an update on that. And we've just seen a lot more collaboration between the groups, a lot more partnership, everybody working together, making sure that we're all working towards one goal and not, competing for resources. And, things like sponsorship for large events. Discover Newport has a lot of resources that they can reach out to sponsor things like the British Motor Car Festival and other events that we've got in Bristol to kind of take on some of the burden that comes along with those. And that's my overview to you.
Jessica, I just had a question about a master calendar of events, because I know I went to a great event, the East Bay Food Pantry event, but that same night there was a big Rotary event. Mm-hmm. So are you guys talking about a master calendar where some of these great events are not on top of each other?
Right. So we're looking at trying to find the best ways to coordinate that. So like trying to get events planned further out, so that if somebody is looking at another event, they can go to a calendar and say, the restaurant week is happening. Maybe we should wait another month, or maybe we should get involved in that and kind of make it bigger, that kind of thing. So we're working on that. It's a work in progress.
Great.
And that aspect of it, are you also including like the churches and the different events? Because I think that weekend of St. Elizabeth's event, there was like numerous things going on. I mean, and I don't know that some of the churches, for example, or local organizations would know to look for that, but it would be nice if you could coordinate some of those activities and involve them whenever you do the master calendar.
That's a good idea.
Because they usually know when their stuff is going to happen.
Right.
We just need to be careful as to what gets scheduled on a calendar, on a master calendar. If it's an organization, a sanctioned organization, a church, or other groups, that's fine. But we just got to be very careful to strike a balance. And that's one of the conversations that we had amongst ourselves in that committee: is to what extent do we allow and what is posted.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that it's important to do like some of the churches, but to keep it limited. But some of them also can't change their date. They're specifically around a feast day or whatever. So.
Well, it was excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, it came up with a good balance of these activities.
Make a motion to...
Go ahead. And we'll have discussion.
Make a motion to receive and file the Bristol Tourism Partnership update.
Second.
Discussion. See that? It was like it was all planned.
If I may, I'd like to make a comment. Diane and Jessica have been doing a very good job getting everything back on track. And I think all of you would probably like to know that tourism has been very good this summer. And the comments that we're all hearing are that what a lovely town. Everybody, of course, thinks they just discovered it, but we know they didn't. And that the town is very neat and tidy, very clean, very attractive. I have to say, I had myself, on 3 separate occasions, I had people say to me, you have a very nice police force. And the chief should know that your police officers are very helpful, they're very polite, they're very friendly. And my third comment is people in this town are very, very nice, and they're very nice to outsiders. So I think all of you should hear that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing that.
That's great.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item K2, the administrator provides various department head quarterly reports.
As you were aware of, you've got quite a bit of information there, and I'm sure you took time to read through it and see, in addition to all those updates that I gave you, they're actually much more specific, each department, because they're very detailed about what are the activities, what's happening within each department, and so I thank all of them for their efforts and for their reports, for wrapping things up in a nice little neat package for all of us.
So I just have 3 highlights out of the reports. Number 1, the Water Pollution Control Department. I think my colleagues and yourself should keep an eye on the RBC units going forward with the budget and those restraints of that project, because we were very involved and asked a lot of questions, and actually most of us go on the installation of those, and they're very important to that facility, especially when we have to deal with any type of fines going forward. So I just want us to all be aware of that and keep on that. The second department was the Public Works, but we already addressed the road infrastructure plan going forward. And thirdly, with our Economic Development Coordinator, part of Community Development, a lot of people, I get asked, what was the reason for her position? We took a lot of time and effort with all of our organizations, our departments in this council to have those discussions of that position and how it was implemented. And I don't know if you want to comment, but she is very active. It was requested by a lot of business owners and people in our town of a point person to go to, and whether this council revises ordinances and regulations, working with community development and Jessica. Very well job with your update of the businesses that are coming into town. It is a positive note with the report, so when people ask what's going on in Bristol, because we all hear businesses are leaving, what's this for? There are positive notes, and she has her work out there in the field. So I don't know if you want to make a comment of, on those businesses or...
So recently we've had a new store open where Boutique and Aqua were. It's Flint and Flame. They're a knife company, mostly. They are also selling kitchenware, pots and pans, that kind of thing. They're great. They have a pretty great story about why they decided to open up a shop in Bristol. It wasn't originally their plan. They were just going to do an office, but they love the town so much. They have friends around here, and they just happened across a store that they just decided to go for it. It's not something that their company has done before, but they think that Bristol is pretty much the perfect place to do it with all the restaurants and everything they have. What am I missing?
The coffee shop.
Empire Coffee and Tea has opened. I know they were here a little while back to get their licenses. They have officially opened. They seem to be doing well. The owner, CJ, has had really good things to say. I saw him tonight at a BMA meeting, so he's very happy with how everything's going there.
Other than downtown, Jessica, all I'm going to say is what's key going forward too is the manufacturing section into the industrial parks and whatnot, especially now that we're having roundtables with the educational aspects with the EDC in tandem with these owners, and some vacant industrial buildings we have to be very, very active on and be very proactive as a town ahead of other municipalities. So.
Yes, along with the internship program that you mentioned with the school department and the EDC, the school department opened an internship program last spring with the high school. They had 8 students and 5 businesses, I believe. It was very successful. The students and the companies all really had a great experience. They're ramping that up this year. They're hoping for somewhere around 25 business partners. So any of the manufacturing companies who are interested in job training and really getting those skills at the high school level for students and want to keep the students here that we have instead of them going off outside of Bristol, they would, the school district, Dr. Mario Andrade, he would be very open to any discussion of anybody who's interested in partnering with that. So please please reach out to him and get your name on that list. Diane and Julie reminded me of another store in downtown that opened that is a very, it was kind of a gap in Bristol. A little grocer, C&R Mercantile, is a place. She's open 7 days a week until 7 o'clock. You can run in and grab some fresh produce, some pasta, some cheeses and meats, that kind of thing. She's got a great little store right beside the school buildings up on High Street. So I highly recommend.
Across from Byfield, yeah.
I'm sorry?
It's right across the street from Byfield School.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Jessica, I was really pleased to see and all of you guys involved with cutting the process down for opening a new business. I guess you guys work with the e-commerce, and that's awesome. I mean, you hear about Rhode Island being last to doing business, and here we're getting better. You know what I mean? We're improving the process, making it easy to open a business, cutting through the red, all the tape.
Correct. Yep, we're working on streamlining that process, making one form for any business so they don't have to fill out 5 or 15 forms. And just making sure that everybody's informed as soon as somebody comes in. The business owner knows exactly the fees that they're going to be charged. Trying to work on making fees the same across the table so that, if I have a sign, I don't know how much I'm going to pay for it. That'll be wrapped into the business fee, hopefully, that kind of thing. So we're meeting, we have a 30-day update follow-up meeting with the consultant that Commerce approved extra meetings to make sure that those are all moving along. So we're meeting on Monday.
Fantastic.
Jessica actually completes her first anniversary with us today.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Many more.
Anything else? Okay. Can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, there's an added executive session, and I don't believe we need to use the one for Bristol Warren Regional School District.
I'll give them a quick update.
Okay, so we'll use both. Then we have individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So if this was a baby wipe, stay with me. If this was a baby wipe, a lot of these baby wipes, if say on the container that you can flush them down the toilet. Stay with me on this, because this is so
Very important.
very big deal. Thousands upon thousands of dollars that we spend on a, quarterly basis. Pumps blow up because of baby wipes, and you're not. It does say it on the container that you can flush them down. What we're asking you to do is please stop. Please stop. What's interesting about a baby wipe, and this isn't one, but it's a good example, is that they find each other. If you pull them out of the container, you notice that they stick to each other. Well, when they go into our pipes, everything you never wanted to know, I know. But when they go into our pipes, they form what looks like a big old softball. That softball is hard, and when it goes into our pumps, it blows up the pump. Not even kind of. It actually rips it apart. Jams everything up, cost us thousands upon thousands of dollars to fix them. So, if you're putting baby wipes down the toilet, please stop. You didn't know you were doing anything wrong, but knowing is half the battle. So it's a really, really big deal. In fact, there's a class action suit that is against a particular manufacturer. It doesn't matter who. But if you're doing it, please stop. You didn't know? Now you know. And you can save thousands of dollars by making sure that our pumps don't blow up. Friday night football. Friday Night Lights, if you've seen that on NBC. I went to Bristol High School on Friday night. It's been a while since I've been there. My son plays Mighty Mites, and they went to go support the team, and they got to sit in one of the end zones. And the place was like being in Texas. It was packed. There was toilet paper being flown all over the place, and the band sounded wonderful. It's $5 to get in, and it's like walking into the Midwest. The support for the football team, the football team itself. In fact, the Chief's son played, hurt his leg there. How's he doing?
He's doing okay.
Oh, really?
Okay, good. But phenomenal. If you haven't done it, it costs $5. It is kid-friendly. It's family-friendly. I've got 2 young kids, and they were running all around the place. Make it a point to go down. Man, was it a good time. And I'm this excited because I haven't been in a while. And I'm going back. And it was great to be local and that good. And man, the football team looks great this year. I know that I hit star status You know how? Because Father Narciso from St. Elizabeth's actually impersonates me now. I've hit that point. So when he has finance meetings, he says, motion and a second, and then he gets it, and then he says, thank you afterwards. And he actually does my voice pretty good, so I was impressed.
As
So
long as he doesn't wave baby wipes.
yes, exactly. $17 million bond. We brought that up a couple of times. It's a really big deal. Just to remind everybody, we're not going to spend $17 million all at once. It's to make sure that we have the money there waiting when opportunities present. We've talked about roads that need to be improved, $5 million. We've talked about the maritime, improving and actually expanding our marina. This is something near and dear to me, but near and dear to all of us now. It's not only a way to bring more business into the community, but it makes money because we rent out those slips, and there's a massive waiting list. People want to use these right away. So it's a win-win-win all the way around. So it costs us money to make it, but it's going to make us money. And it's going to bring more business into town, more people into town, and the people that maybe live someplace else in town be able to enjoy the downtown that much more. Flint and Flame was mentioned about a new business in town. I loved what they did. They actually went over to the Oyster Bar, and if you've ever been to the Oyster Bar, Ray's one of the guys that chucks the stuff. Well, he has one of their knives, and he's trying it out. It's actually his favorite knife now, so if you get a moment, go down to Flint and Flame, check it out. There's really nice stuff over there. That's all I had. So this was a long meeting, but we got a lot accomplished. I know sometimes we have to go a little bit extra, but it was worth it because we got a lot of things done. So thank you, everyone.
Mr. Sweeney.
Just wanted to, again, I know Walter did a great job. Just consider voting yes on question 6, the green economy bond. You know, $8 million for land conservation and park development, $9 million for local open space protection and park development, $8 million to protect clean water and clean up brownfields, and $10 million for the bike path. So it's protecting Rhode Island's best asset, and which is our environment. Why I say that is that I'm flying out to Haiti on the 8th to work with Living Water to help drill for fresh water for that country, because we're lucky to live here and see what political stability is, where we all get along, we move the town forward. But I'm going to a country where there's a lot of political instability, and the environment is a mess over there, and the people are suffering. They're poor, they don't have clean water, and they don't have food. So it's important to protect our environment, and I hope to give back a little bit, make it a little bit better, and I think it'll go a long way. Hopefully we can all give back in some way.
Too bad you can't bring some of that water back for the Bristol County Water Authority.
Yeah, I'll see if they can make an alternative line somehow. Meters. That's it. Have a great night.
Ms. Perella.
The only thing that I just wanted to mention is, Tony, I think DPW director has left, but if you could look, I understand there's a big giant pothole on Jenny Lane. I only heard about it late this afternoon, so I didn't have a chance to go check.
Isn't that filled already? I understand, I was there, I took a picture, I know exactly.
Oh, I don't know, I just heard about it this afternoon.
Right by the playground, yes.
Okay, I just heard it today, so, I mean, can you just double check? I just heard it this afternoon.
I will check it.
And I can
Because
try to
initially,
double check.
I had the wrong, I was saying Jane, J-N-E.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah.
but we got that straight.
Yeah.
So I end up actually visiting the area and seeing the picture to direct us, so. Okay.
All right, well, just let me know, and I'll try to double check it, see if it was filled. As I said, I just heard about it late this afternoon, so.
I will
Okay.
revisit that just to be sure, but I was there, I know exactly the location.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you know where.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, that's all I have, actually. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
As the chairman stated, we talked about a lot of issues that we're facing as a town, all positive things going forward, and we have more to discuss right now. So with that, I don't have much to say. Just thank everybody for coming out. Mike Davis and everybody tuning in at home. Have a good night.
And Mr. Harrisoff.
I have 2 or 3 brief things I'd like to mention. One is that I understand that at some point there's intention to update our heating and cooling system here. And when that's done, I think there ought to be emphasis on the noise of it, because ever since this was put in some years ago, it's been very distracting at these meetings when that turns on and blocks what people are saying, because some of the people that use our microphone don't speak very loudly, and so hopefully something can be done to isolate the sound.
That's one of the main reasons.
Good.
In the
put
fact
it on
that
the
it didn't
roof.
work in the summer.
That's another one of the big, another one of the main
Petition didn't
reasons.
work in the summer.
And it doesn't work in the winter, so that covers everything.
Yeah, right. And I'd like to give my normal plead for cleaning the town. We had a little discussion of this a few moments ago, and I don't know whether Kevin's a believer in it yet, but it's good you got the vacuum machine for the sidewalk. The gutters are still disgraceful in the downtown area. They should be cleaned. And I really think it's important that the administration and the town list a resolve to really do this and keep the town clean. Now, we heard a comment from a few minutes ago that the town is neat and clean. Well, that's true in certain areas, but it's not true in the business areas. And so I just hope that the push to do better in that regard will be strong.
Actually, Kevin has been down there on a weekly basis. He has had an employee down there sweep. Just don't forget, this is the fall time. Just as quickly as you clean it, the leaves are down again. But he has been down there on a weekly basis.
Well,
and we also have to keep in mind, that's a state road, for one. Two, every business has some responsibility. If we, and I know you says, well, we should do it daily. If we're going to go that far, then we're going to need to hire another employee just to do that.
I don't
and
think
I'm not so sure.
When I was town administrator, I had somebody down there every single day, and it was neat and clean, and that should be done again. It's not that difficult. Of all the many things that have to be done by DPW, this is the easiest one. And look at it this way. They spend, say there are 20 men, there are actually more. 20 men times 40 hours is 800 hours a week. Well, you can go down and clean those sidewalks in a half an hour. It should be done every day. Half an hour, call it 1 hour. 1 hour times 5 days a week is 5 hours spent. 5 hours out of 80 hours is not very much. So I don't accept the fact that we make excuses about what other people should do or the state. We ought to have a resolve to keep our town proud, neat, clean, that we can brag about as much as we brag about other features of the town of Bristol.
And we do that. We do that right now on a weekly basis, Mr.
Your effort
Hirschhoff.
is improving, but your results are still not there. It needs to come right from the top, from you and from Kevin, to have a resolve to do it and make it happen. Next thing, the chairman mentioned the visit of the Oliver Hazard Perry, which is a magnificent ship. That ship has been a long effort, and the chairman just spoke about a $17 million bond issue for the town of Bristol. Well, that happens to be the amount of money that was raised for constructing that ship, $17 million. And they hit a problem that they didn't have a naval architect worked out all the safety features, and so they've been held up for a couple of years by the Coast Guard, but they finally cleared that. So this cruise into here is one of the earliest cruises with the passengers on board achieving the goal of the ship.
Nice.
And I think it's a great honor for it to come to Bristol. And by the way, it's rather appropriate because, as we all know, the Perry family has been very important to this town for many years. And the Perry family of Bristol is actually at least remotely related to Oliver Hazard Perry, who was one of the great acclaimed seamen of the United States. And that's the person for whom this ship is named. And it came in here this evening. They're going to leave tomorrow morning, but I would urge any of the viewers to get up early and go down there and have a look at it. And I'm going to go myself early, because with the council meeting I haven't been on board, and I'm going to try to get on board and maybe sneak a little breakfast tomorrow morning and learn about the ship.
Halsey's underplaying it a bit. It's not just your average, it's a 3-masted, massive ship. Take a ride over there. Go take a look at it. It's spectacular.
Where's it from?
And just for the scale of it, I have my own sailboat there with a 78-foot mast. It looks like a toy next to this big ship, and it's magnificent. And I'm going to propose that they come back regularly, which they might do, and I'm going to propose that they come to our dock on 4th of July 2017.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
I think it'd be a great thing. And maybe I'll need to ask the council to make a formal invitation, but I'll sound them out and report back.
Halsey, where is it from originally? Where is it from?
centered in Newport.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Rhode Island.
very much a Rhode Island
Oh, good.
activity, and it's going to be very active. And you can go on board and climb up to the yard arms and help set the sail.
Cool. So it's open to the public this weekend?
I'm not sure about that, but I think that certainly on future visits, it can be open to the public. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And just one more thing that I was mentioning to Tim here. Some years ago, I guess it was the time when the first George Bush was President of the United States, I somehow got acquainted with Dan Quayle, who you may remember was the Vice President. And he invited me down to Washington one time to his office in the big office building across from the White House. And he showed me in his office the drawer of the desk of the Vice President. And in that drawer were the signatures of all the Vice Presidents, Lyndon Johnson, and all the different Vice Presidents. So without objection, Mr. Chairman, when I depart from this position that I've been honored to hold so many years, I'm going to take out my magic marker and put my signature in this drawer, and maybe I can that way start a new tradition for our town council.
I think it's a great idea.
I'll do it. All right. Thank you.
Town administrator agenda items.
I'm good. Just have a great evening.
Thank you.
We are going to convene into executive session pursuant to 4246-5A2 regarding litigation Bristol Warren Regional School District and 4246-5A5 with regard to acquisition of property and leases.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, everyone.